my first meeting of the year because
It's all these things.
All these things that
All
have
right.
happened along the way.
Claire, or I will re-up.
I would think maternity leave was better than COVID.
Yes, it was during COVID, so it was kind of.
Stretch to find like
Yeah.
a plain
Make things even more confusing.
Yeah, exactly. It was interesting time.
Welcome to the January 25th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. May we have a call to order, Gloria, please.
Chair LaFaro,
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty is absent. The Secretary is here. Board Member Catalinato.
Present.
Board Member Mutu.
present.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Please join us for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Gloria, do we have any minutes?
Yes, we do. December 14th, 23, and January 11th, 24.
What? Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah.
December 14th?
And January 11th.
A motion to accept minutes?
Motion.
By
Second.
Craig, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay. Before we go into our work session, we had one piece of business that we did not do, and that is to elect a secretary for the board. And so we've had Glorian's great services for all these years, so I'm going to nominate Glorian. Anybody else have any?
Yeah.
Great idea. The whole board seconds it. Unanimous vote, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. You're it, Gloria, and you do such
Oh,
a great
I'm
job. We
just
are
so
up to date. No,
you,
but I can
Gloria.
remember a time when we were months and months and months behind on minutes, and now we are not.
Well,
Thank
So
you for your
thank
efforts.
you, for
well,
yes.
without
Thank you.
Kristen, we wouldn't be up to date.
Good. Okay, so we're going to close out the afternoon work session and go into a work session. Are people here for a work session?
I think so. CVE.
That's me.
Yep, great.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Just give us your name for the record, please.
Sure, it's Stephen with a V, and last name is Engelmann, Engelmann.
M-A-N-N, and you are representing CD in what capacity?
I'm a project developer.
Project developer.
Correct.
Okay.
That's me here.
Thank you.
This is where
If you like, I can pass them down.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Craig can now.
And Prem, you're coordinating this, right?
Yes.
So do you want to give us just a very brief overview?
I will, yes. So this is for CB Community Solar, 172
That's it.
South Country Road in the hamlet of Quiog. So it's site plan special application, and Jackie, the chair, requested this session so we can have further knowledge, especially since it's the first time the board is seeing a project like this, community scale solar project. So we're reviewing for pre-submission, and we also have it on the agenda to set the conference.
Public hearing? Mhm.
Yeah, the public hearing. It's on a municipal lot. It's an 13.1 acre parcel. The applicant is to lease 11.8 of that. It's owned by West Hampton Beach Village,
Ah,
and they'll
okay.
keep I guess they'll retain the remainder
Yes.
of it. It's a small portion in the northwest corner. It goes down the corridor.
Correct, yes,
along the
an access
property
road,
line.
yeah.
And it's the same property line shared with the residents.
Correct.
May I ask why it's before this board, since it's not in the town of Southampton?
It is.
It
It
is
is in the
in town of
town,
Southampton.
yeah.
Yeah.
The village owns the land,
Yeah.
but it's in the town of
Okay.
Southampton. It's in our jurisdiction.
Yeah, this used to be the village's municipal lot at one time where they kept the material storage and municipal vehicles at one point. This is right next to where I live.
Okay,
Full,
well,
full disclosure. I live in the development next to this, and this is just north, a little bit northeast of where the apartment complex is being planned on South
That's
Country
right,
Road.
it's just to the south of it. It's got the airport is just to the north, and it's divided by the Long Island Railroad.
Okay.
The use is permitted as an opportunity area in the OSC zoning district, especially since it's on a municipal lot. And the applicant is not proposing battery storage right now.
Just solar.
Just
Yeah,
solar.
just solar.
Can you describe how it's connected to the grid?
Maybe Steve.
Sure,
if you
absolutely.
want
Yeah,
to-
so it's all yours, Stephen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time and meeting with us today. I have to go through any questions that you have. In terms of the system interconnection, there's existing PSEG utility pole infrastructure at the road, and we'd be tying into that existing infrastructure. So we locate, on the property, we would locate a 3-foot by 4-foot concrete pad with a transformer that would transform the voltage, and then it would be sent up a riser pole, and in that riser pole, there'd be a wire that would connect to the existing pole, which is, on the property, but essentially to the southwest corner of the property.
And then,
And then from there, so the energy flows through the existing infrastructure, the wires, transformers and switchgear, and then it essentially feeds the grid. So that energy would be used throughout the community, essentially pulled off the energy grid, just like the PSEG supply of energy. So it essentially is it's a supportive energy induction into the existing grid infrastructure. So it supplements what a power plant would otherwise have to put out.
are you able to, sorry, can I
ahead,
ask more questions related to
Yeah.
So is there a geographic area that you could define on a map or within your grid? Like this solar array is covering this geographic area, or?
It's electrons,
There's a lot of
kind of the flow of
ions in
electrons, yes, and it would depend upon the use at the, certainly it would cover a decent, area, but how it's used and how much demand is on the grid is really kind of, would determine how far that would travel, so to speak. But essentially, that energy is used by any of the residential homes in that area, and the system is what we call a community solar project. So the energy is generated, it's essentially sent back into the network, it's metered, and the utility essentially provides CVE a credit for that energy as it's provided. And we can then provide a discount to the community, to the residential homeowners in the area, providing a 10% discount to their current electric rates through PSEG. It's a program, it's a statewide program now, relatively new though, where we can develop projects. We typically try to target low to moderate income homes first, and then any other folks that would like to sign up for, essentially a program, free to opt in, free to opt out, and it would provide, so it's you're offsetting what you're buying from the utility, so to speak. It's billed by the utility directly through the utility, but essentially it provides about a 10% discount on a residential homeowner's electricity cost.
Within a certain geographic
We would
range, or?
Yeah, so we would
Right.
have subscribers for the amount of energy that the system is what we would call a 2 megawatt system. So I would think that that's going to provide, if we said that would provide, energy for 250 homes, we would sign up 250 subscribers to the project. And it's essentially, we're putting kilowatts into the PSEG grid, and they're metering that, and they're providing those at the rates that they would be used at the homes. The reality of it is the electron that we put out there may not arrive at that house, but it's really at that point it goes into this kind of network of electricity. It's metered going in, it's metered kind of coming out on the residential homeowners end, and it's a kind of a program by New York State such that we can develop more solar, and to try to make it more fair and equitable to be able to provide it to folks that wouldn't otherwise be able to develop a solar project.
Can you say how those customers are going to be chosen? Is that something your company does? Is that something that the town does, or the village?
So our company would look for subscribers, and it really, it would be, we would do, public outreach essentially to find subscribers to subscribe to the program, and based on their home energy use, we would sign them up for an amount of electricity that we would, provide in terms of a billing credit that would be applied to them. We would subscribe enough folks based on the amount of use at their homes to use the entire energy output over the course of a year. But we would handle all of that.
And is there any input from the town or the village?
There can be, absolutely, yeah. So we're doing a project in Riverhead wherein we are, the town is asking us to provide energy to some of their buildings and to specific low to moderate income housing developments that they're doing, and we're, you know, trying to target those folks first. So we certainly are open to input.
And the economics between you and I guess it's the village, because the village owns the property?
Yes, they own the property, so we have a 25-year lease with them, so we're paying them a lease rate every year to use that
Is that a
space.
fixed lease, or is that based
It
on?
escalates.
It's
That's right.
fixed.
Yeah, it's a fixed amount, and then it escalates over time. I think it's a 2% escalator on the lease rate. if that's what you're-
And there's, at the end of there's decommissioning or upgrade clauses in there
Yes.
to cover what's happening 20 years from now or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah, so we go through a complete decommissioning plan, essentially, you know, that instructs how the project would be disassembled, removed from the site, you know, and put the site back in the condition that it was in. It's fairly low impact in terms of what we do, but there's definitely stuff that goes in the ground. We take all of that equipment out of the ground, and we, you know, recycle all that equipment. We've got I think that there was a low-level decommissioning plan that was submitted at this stage. We've put together a much more robust decommissioning plan, followed by a bond that would, you know, support the project for a 25 to even 30-year cycle. I think we have an option for a 5-year extension on the lease.
So you could possibly upgrade the panels or something at some point and
Yes.
run it longer or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, essentially the equipment is typically, you know, kind of warranted by the manufacturer and its insurance companies for a period of 25 years to put out a specified amount of power. It definitely declines a bit each year, but in 25 years, we should still be putting out, you know, 80 to 83% of its original kind of value of energy. So it's still good, right? You know, it's the 15-year-old car that still gets you to work and to school every day, but maybe not as fast as the new car. So we could continue to run that lease with that equipment, or we can upgrade at that time. Because once you have all of the kind of electric infrastructure and the racking system in place, then it's just kind of a panel change out, right? It's like changing the tires, I guess you could say, if you're using that car analogy.
So, under, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, no, go ahead, George.
On the way I know this property well,
Mhm. Yeah.
on the west side, you have a line of property, of residential properties of Jennifer's Pass. On the east side, it's all wooded. I think that's Suffolk County Water
That's
Authority
correct.
line.
Sure is.
And the north, of course, is a railway line, but,
Mhm.
so I don't know enough about community solar and large-scale
Sure.
projects, but
Okay.
would people along Jennifer's Path expect any kind of, what impacts do you expect it to have on those people? And how do you plan to address that?
Sure.
Is it gonna be reflective or?
No, so we
daytime?
did a glare study because of our proximity to the airport. We had to do an FAA kind of glare study. So there's really, these are gonna be facing to the road, they're gonna be facing to the south. So the Jennifer Lane property would be to the west of us, so there would be no direct facing panel, so to speak. We put a 100-foot buffer from the property line, the
Yeah,
western
it's
property line
difficult to kind
setback.
of read what,
Yes.
based on this plan.
I
Yeah.
wasn't planning on, I could put
No,
it up there.
that's,
So it's a 100-foot buffer, which provides, you know, quite a bit of space. We plan a landscape buffer along that entire, you know, kind of our western edge, you know, that'll, you know, get to 8 feet within a couple of years. We plan them at about 5 feet, and they typically, you know, will fill in. There's already an existing landscape buffer within that 100-foot setback. There's already a number, you know, it's completely forested in terms of trees and shrubs and that sort of thing. Everybody's got fences back there, but, you know, we certainly will do our part to provide a good landscape buffer, and hopefully to provide a little biodiversity to the site, in the sense that the plants and things that are there are fairly limited. And we try to make the site a bit more robust when it comes to grasses and plantings that we can plant, you know, for pollinator friendly and for, you know, kind of habitat of some of the, you know, wildlife in the area.
I noticed what appears to be a fence around the
That's
physical
right.
structures of this
Yes,
thing. Is
that's
that
right.
the only fence that you're putting in, or are you fencing the perimeter of the property?
No, we're just fencing the perimeter of the solar array, and I believe that the landscape buffer would reside outside of that, so the fence would be behind the landscape buffer. if
I
you
just
would.
want to alert you, because one of the issues that they have there, and myself have complained to the village about this, is
Okay,
people riding dirt bikes and intrusion in the property.
I've seen the
So I don't know
tracks,
whether that creates a problem for your,
yeah,
you know, your facility, and you need to, you know,
yeah.
as far
it's-
as people coming onto the property in proximity to it.
Yeah, we've been kind of advised to replace the gate there and do some things, but certainly from a security standpoint, we will make sure our equipment is secure, you know. And then the question is, going further, you know, do we try to secure it from the Long Island Railroad right-of-way, as well as the you know, vast acreage of the Suffolk County Water Authority?
Yeah.
Those are, you know, things we'll work on for sure.
Claire, will this be subject to secret?
Oh, yes, yes.
So I have just a question about the business structure.
Sure.
And want to make sure that I follow it. You're a private company,
Correct.
CVE.
Yes.
So you're leasing the land from West Hampton Beach
Mhm.
for 25 years.
Right.
And what is the relationship? Is it contractual with PSEG?
It is, yes. Good question. So we enter into a contract to provide this energy, and of course there's weather variation in terms of how much gets provided each year. It can vary 5 or 10%, but we essentially go into an agreement, an interconnection agreement they call it, with the utility, where we are providing that power to them, and through this community solar mechanism, they're then taking the input of that kilowatt hours and providing credit to residential homeowners' bills. So we have an obligation to keep that system functional and operational for a 25-year period with the utility.
That's on you.
That's on us, yes, absolutely, yeah. So we own the system, we operate and maintain it long-term. We own many of these systems throughout the Northeast, and it's our obligation to kind of keep that system operating. And of course, there will be times for operations and maintenance, and we'll let the utility know when we shut the system down, and we go through and do our annual kind of maintenance checks and that sort of thing. But we have an obligation with the utility to make sure that that system is operational and up and running, and there's inspections by the utility.
Now,
throughout the
on
years.
their part, PSEG,
Yeah.
what if, just for example, that the pole at the road goes
Right.
down?
Right, okay. So, essentially, all of this equipment is predicated on existing line voltage from that pole. So, said another way, if that pole went down and there's no connection to that grid, all of the equipment that we have on our side has an automatic shutdown. It's Underwriters Laboratory tested, they're 1791, I think is the code, where it has to shut off within a couple of milliseconds. And that's also not even if the pole goes down, but if the power goes off in that circuit, and there's folks that are coming to fix that circuit and those transformers, essentially we can't be backfeeding the energy into that grid while there's poll workers. So that's really the main concern, is that for worker safety, the system has to immediately shut down under those Underwriter Lab qualifications. So it definitely shuts down. If the pole goes down, that sends a signal essentially, and all of our equipment shuts down. We have 24/7 monitoring on it, so we'll know in the system if there's a hiccup in the system.
Computer monitoring?
Yeah. So we set up essentially a kind of a cellular network right there, where the information is beamed via cellular network to a site that we maintain, and we have cameras, and we watch the production of the system 24/7 to make sure that it's operating. We need it to operate in order to be able to make the financial case to own the project. So it's in our best interest to kind of make sure that there's no downtime.
And you have several of these projects around
We
New York
do.
State, or?
Yeah, so yes, many in New York State. We essentially, this program of community solar, I guess you could say it started in California, but on the East Coast it was really a Massachusetts thing for a long time, and we developed about 10 of these projects in the state of Massachusetts. We've got about 37 megawatts of projects in the state of Massachusetts, and now we've got about 15 projects that we're developing in upstate New York. A little bit more, land available there, and a little bit more utility infrastructure utility infrastructure that we can kind of connect to, so we can do larger projects, in upstate New York. Typically, 5 megawatts, but sometimes we can do more than one project at a site. So we've got about 15 going in New York right now. About 5 of those are complete. 10 of them are, in or really in construction. And we've got, we operate in a couple of other states in terms of development. We're in Pennsylvania as well, fairly new program there. So it's the technology is not new, but this program of community solar, which is what we focus on, is really just state by state whether it's accepted, and we can work in those states.
And you're in Riverhead? with a
I'm in Suffolk
project?
County.
Suffolk County.
Yeah, I'm in Suffolk County. We have another project at the landfill site in Riverhead, that's right.
Mhm.
So that is, we haven't broken ground yet, but we're waiting for DEC permission on that. But we're working with the town, releasing their land as well, to be able to develop a solar project there on their former Youngs Avenue landfill site. So we're developing a community solar project there. We'll feed that energy back into the grid, and then we can provide that benefit to homeowners and small businesses in Riverhead.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple applications of battery energy storage system, which
Right.
one of their limitations seems to be that you have to be in close proximity to a high high voltage
That was
interconnection
gonna, that
system.
was
The
gonna be my
interconnection,
question.
It doesn't seem as though you have that requirement. If you're doing 2 megawatts, but because I don't recall any kind of high voltage equipment being in that area.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there is three-phase electricity, on that road. We have applied for interconnection approval with the utility. We've gotten that interconnection approval. It's quite a bit of money to do the interconnection, so there are some upgrades that need to be done by PSEG. But they have, the size of this system may be different than what you guys have seen with battery-only
that's right.
projects are typically very large, what we would call utility scale projects. 10 megawatts, 20 megawatts. This is
100 megawatts.
100 megawatts, yes. So you sure need some infrastructure there. We're doing 2 megawatts here, so it's a relatively small project, but the idea is that a distributed generation like this
Yes.
makes for a more resilient grid, so that like sections of the grid can fail, but other sections
So
can.
you don't anticipate having to have any step up or step down transformers on the site to do the voltage conversion over? Or?
We in fact, I think we will. We will have a ground-mounted transformer. The output of our inverters is typically, I guess it's 1,000 volts that we put out, and then at the line voltage that we'll be feeding into can be 12,000. So a transformer would step it out from 1,000 to 12,000 volts and put it back into the infrastructure there.
And
Are
the
you
flow of
connecting-
electricity is constant, or it's held like in a capacitor there and then released
It's
on an
so
as-needed basis?
it's constant, provided the sun is there to provide.
Right, yeah.
But yes, it's a constant flow of electricity, and it's just so with there's a study that the utility does, which is a 4-month kind of comprehensive study, is about the usage on the grid, which kind of goes back to your question. How much usage is on the grid in that particular area, and can we handle the infusion of this much power on any one day or in any one year, and be able to use that power before it needs to go back to the substation, so to speak.
Right.
So kind of a deep level analysis is done there to confirm that if we're feeding energy in for 8 hours of the day or 10 hours of the day, can it be used within that area? And
So if proximity is important, it sounds like proximity is
yes,
important,
yes,
then potentially can the residency, the communities closest to it benefit from it, like George's community, and also across the street, I believe there was 80 units of apartments that were
Yeah.
already approved. I mean,
Yeah.
how neat would it be to
Right.
integrate, I know they're doing an STP there.
Yeah.
Super clean apartments, right? And
Yes.
using STP, using the solar across the street.
right.
Is this all possible?
That is all possible, yeah, and it would make more sense, back to Ms. Fulham's question, is that the reality is that energy is going to be used by those residents. Those electrons are going to flow to those homes before they make it to Southampton or before they get to Hampton
Yeah,
Bays. So it would make the most sense to kind of reach out to folks in the immediate area. And, we try to do that because the folks that are there, there's going to be some impact, to your question. We're going to make some noise when we construct this, over the course of a couple of weeks or, a month or two. After that, we're a quiet neighbor. There's really kind of there's no municipal needs. We don't need any water or sewer or anything kind of brought in. We need no services. Again, it's a very quiet neighbor. There's not, we check on the system a couple of times a year, but, you're talking about a couple of guys in a pickup truck a couple of times a year, so.
I mean.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the trees, so we're keeping this 100-foot buffer, but within that 100 feet, we certainly have, oaks and pines that are along the property line there. The system the panels will track the sun to some extent from.
Oh, so it
just
does,
from
it does.
east to west, yeah. So, it can help to avoid some of the shade. There will be some shade impact from from the
trees,
vegetated trees, but, we certainly don't want to start cutting down, limit the amount of trees that we'd have to cut down.
Yeah,
And really
the
from-
reason, I'm sorry, the reason why I asked about secret earlier is, with that amount of clearing and hardened surfaces, I start worrying about runoff issues.
Yeah.
Especially runoff issues when you're next to, residential.
Yes, absolutely. So there's probably not a full plan in there yet, but we do a full SWIP plan, stormwater erosion control kind of management
Yeah.
program. We're not adding a whole lot of impervious surfaces because the panels, essentially installed right into the dirt. So the water that falls in the panels, falls to the dirt
Oh,
below
I
it.
see.
We do create, basin areas, and we try to drive water to the landscape buffer. So we try to use up any of that water with our on-site vegetation. But we go through a full, engineer kind of SWIP plan, as they call it, stormwater pollution prevention plan, as well as kind of erosion and sediment control. So that'll all be, in our next level plans that we'll be submitting to you guys.
And I know in some places they had goats and sheep who were eating the grasses between the solar panels.
So it's interesting you say that, I was just talking about that. When we do this upstate, so apparently goats get into a lot of trouble. So the goat is not the preferred animal for vegetative maintenance, but sheep are really the animal that you're looking for there. So
Right.
we are literally, one of the things I have to look into we're doing a couple projects out here is to find a sheep farmer that would love to, because we do this upstate New York,
Yeah.
we bring them in, they're in a,
It's a win for both
it's a
sides.
win for both, yeah, they kind of graze the area,
Yeah.
it helps us with operations and maintenance, we don't have to use, machines to cut stuff down and potentially damage the equipment.
Right.
So I think there's plenty of goats around here, I know there's some goats on the North Fork, but I'm not sure.
But the sheep-
Browders
I guess
has sheep
I
on the
know-
North Fork.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know where there's
Yeah.
some sheep too.
Okay.
And just a couple of suggestions, from a communication standpoint, since this is new for the town, I
Yeah.
think if you did have a map that sort of color-coded a geographic area, that, where those people could benefit
Mhm.
from a reduction on their electric bill,
Yeah.
explain that process a little bit more, and
Sure.
then I'm sure there's some sort of coder that could put it into a website someplace where someone could put their address in,
Yeah,
and maybe, have an idea of what they would save,
Yeah.
or if they're eligible or not,
yeah, we can do that.
Because it is, I understand the flow of energy, it's not as direct, right?
Right.
But you could give people in that neighborhood an idea where someone could put their,
Right.
address in and just
Yeah,
get an
based on the
idea.
number of houses and kind of average use, we can figure out about how much, from distance from the project, how much we could provide for homes.
Mhm.
At least we can certainly do something.
Or
That's a good
eligible or not
Right.
eligible, right, I
Right.
mean, just
Yeah.
something, right?
suggestion. Absolutely, yeah.
I mean,
That's a good
this
suggestion.
is fitting into the LIPA tariff system.
Correct.
And so
Mhm.
how exactly is that working? I mean, I know of it, but I don't know exactly the process of how people get the credits.
Yeah, so essentially, and you're right that LIPA is kind of the overseer of the utility. We typically work with PSEG, who's really kind of the operator, so to speak.
Yes, but LIPA is are the guys that make the decisions.
Yes, those are the guys that make, I've met the board there, and they're very intimidating. But they have an existing billing mechanism essentially with community solar where, PSEG, essentially they identify community solar projects and that energy that kind of comes in, we have to subscribe ratepayers in PSEG territory and how much energy they would be provided by the system. So it's an existing, and I can get more detail on it, but it's an existing kind of billing mechanism that PSEG does where they take this input of energy and then they distribute it across 250 subscribers, but I can get you some more, kind of nuts and bolts details on.
And the number of subscribers would be based on the output from the solar?
Right, yeah,
And how much a client uses?
correct, yeah. So what we essentially, we know what the system is gonna provide, on an average year. So that's kind of our input on the supply side. And then, as people would, sign up for the program, we would use their, 5-year historical, through PSEG, how much energy they've been using on an annual basis for a 5-year look back, so that we know how many folks we can kind of sign up for that, so that the energy that we provide is then provided to them based on their historical usage. And, again, we may not be supplying, 100% of their electric load, in any one year. It might be, 80 or 85%, but it's monitored and metered in such a way that they're just paying for for the benefit that they get, if that makes sense.
And I think I heard you say that the town or the village could direct who gets this credit?
We would certainly be open to input, for sure. I mean, we have a builder that's kind of developing some low to moderate income family homes that, would like to kind of participate in the program. So we have some interest, but by all means, we'd be, we're looking for subscribers. It's work that we need to do, so if you have some ideas on that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we're working on a solar facility at the North Sea landfill.
Yes,
And the town is definitely focusing on lower income people
Yeah.
in the North Sea area
okay,
Not-
right, to subscribe to it, to
to
get the benefit.
subscribe to it. And the assumption is they would be getting a certain percentage credit,
Mhm.
certainly nowhere near their whole bill.
Right, yeah. Yeah, to our point too, I mean, typically it'll provide about a 10% is what we say, discount on your bill. If you have a $200 bill, you can save $40 on a monthly basis, which is something, it's
Yeah. So I
certainly
mean,
helps.
from an operational standpoint, I think it would be great if we can require that, if that's possible, that it goes to people who really could use the credit. We've got such a challenge with affordable housing,
Mhm.
and this is a way to reduce that overall expense a little bit.
I
Yeah.
agree.
And even at the federal level, there's a tax credit that, that CV as an owner of the project can apply for, and the tax credit is more robust if we can provide to low to moderate income families, so we are.
I have my own solar on my roof,
Oh,
so
good for you.
I could show you my.
Oh, you got your app with your output?
I have the app. yeah.
Not a good day today, but.
I was still making a little bit,
Okay.
and I even made some yesterday.
Okay,
Yep.
it's good, so it even works in the rain.
So I have one technical question. The
Sure.
interconnect with the PSEG pole,
Yeah.
is it going to be underground?
I guess to be determined. I mean, we have to, so PSEG has approved our interconnection, and now we have a ways to go in terms of really kind of final design of that part of it. We have our solar panel layout, we have our identified, like, the equipment that we need to have on the pads toward the road. We need their input in terms of how it's their grid, so, how they would like us to interconnect. In most cases, I think what we would find is, close to the road where the driveway entrance comes out, we would, I think our plan right now is that we'd be installing what we call a riser pole, a regular, typical utility pole, where essentially a wire goes up that pole and is then able to kind of cascade across our driveway to the pole that's on the other side of the driveway. So we're adding one utility pole to then interconnect at that pole. And I'm sure that at that pole, and even at our riser pole, there'll be some equipment, like you see, transformer, kind of little trash can transformers, and switchgear on those poles. But we need kind of their input, once we get to the next level with them, as to exactly what that design will look like.
Okay. And not to forget that we are in a hurricane-prone area
Yes,
with
yes.
things that got blown down.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you know.
So just a couple more things.
Yeah.
Scale-wise,
Mhm.
at what point, like, how many acreage, what's the minimum amount of acreage you need to consider a project like this?
I would say this project is, a little on the small side for us. We're using about just under 12 acres here.
Yeah.
And we're doing a 2 megawatt system. We're packing it pretty tightly because we wanted to give that 100-foot buffer. So that's, I think, around the 10-acre kind of range is where projects start to kind of make sense.
And as a guess, how many households do you think this would benefit?
I'd say you're probably in the range, I had said 250, I'd say 250 to maybe 300.
300.
Yeah, but I'd want to,
Right.
dial in on that in terms of.
And do you have other, sites that you've prospected and
We're
sort
still
of targeting?
prospecting, it's, so the answer is we're still looking for more sites. We love to find brownfield sites. I mean, I don't necessarily consider this site a brownfield, but I can
Right.
tell you that, and you probably know, it's a site where, for decades, it's really been kind of a dumping site for the DPW. And that's fine, but, we see this as a positive reuse of land that has been, completely impacted, and has had everything under the sun, left at that site at one time or another. Like I said, we're working with Riverhead on their landfill site, but we also are wide open to using, other parcels, because it's really, it's somewhat permanent, you might think, but it is a system that, in 30 years, if that's not permanent, can move out and that land can be available. And I think that's why the village liked it, because it's a lease and they get that land, they get that
Yeah.
land back, so to speak.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm sure you know about Southampton Town, they're
Yeah.
finalizing the sustainability
Yes.
initiatives.
Yes,
And here, we're a planning board.
yeah.
And now part of our planning is, we're going to be thinking, and, right now, we're strongly recommending people, to work and develop with clean energy,
Right,
if at all possible.
Yeah. yeah,
Some of your prospect lands, if you wouldn't mind sharing that. This
Sure.
way, if something comes before our board, maybe one of us will remember, oh yeah, that was close to that site X, that,
Yeah.
there may be solar there.
yeah,
It would actually help us quite a bit.
Right, like a small master plan of,
yeah,
Energy overlay.
yeah.
an energy overlay. where Craig has named it appropriately.
And we don't need massive, amounts of land, 10 acres here, 15 acres there can really make a big
Are
difference.
you working with the town at the landfill?
No,
Somebody else is?
Somebody else unfortunately got to that before us.
Are you,
Okay.
do you
But,
look at, over parking lots, or are they not big enough? I know there's a couple up Island where they put them over
Yeah.
parking lots.
So
but-
scale is really important there, because, you know, you're building, we call it carport, but it's a lot of steel, and it's a big disruption, you know, to the site. But yes, we do carports, you know, where it kind of makes sense. You know, typically, you know, again, in this kind of, about here, about 2 megawatts is where, but you think about a parking lot that's, you know, 10 acres, you know?
Right.
It's, you know, it's a big parking lot. And of course, there's, in a parking lot, it's not like we can cover everything, right? We're covering where the cars park, not really where the roads are and, you know, that sort of thing. But yes, parking lots are a great solution. We just gotta try to make the numbers work, so to speak, in terms of the steel that kind of goes into building it.
Can I just go back to the outreach,
Yeah,
community
sure.
outreach again?
Yeah.
Obviously, your company has been doing this before, so
Sure.
what is your MO, what's your plan? How do you do it? That we get the right people and the right people that the town and the village want.
Right, yeah, so, I mean, you know, for us, you know, it is, you know, community outreach, we, you know, typically, you know, we'll send mailers, you know, make phone calls, you know, to a specific region, you know, we try to identify a region that's relatively close to the project. We do have, you know, online tools that we use to kind of identify where, you know, low to moderate income, you know, homes are, so we try to kind of target
By
that.
census data?
Yes, exactly, right, yeah, overlays on like GIS, that would tell us, you know, some of those things. In upstate New York, we try to target, you know, former natural gas or coal mines and that sort of thing. So we have these kind of layers that we can use to determine, you know, the right folks to reach out to. So we'd be looking for that in the town, you know, in terms of where the right folks are, that we'd want to reach out to. But, you know, we're, like I say, we're wide open to the town, providing us their input. You guys know it better than we do.
I think you should definitely reach out to the CAC West.
That's
Okay.
where
Yeah.
you took
Yeah.
the words out of my mouth.
Yeah,
CAC West, okay,
yeah.
okay.
And do you interface with the sustainability committee of the town?
Yes. We've done some outreach there. You know, I'm from the area, but I'm meeting a lot of folks.
Okay, we have a member right in the audience.
Okay.
That would be me.
Okay.
I'm the co-chair of the Sustainability Committee.
Okay.
So,
And
I'd
Lynn
love
Arthur also.
and Linda Arthur is in the
She's in
audience,
the
so,
audience,
I'd
so.
love to.
and she's the,
Maybe we'll meet each other
Yeah.
when
she's
you-
the energy
your hand.
lady.
Okay, great. Love to stop you.
She's in charge of all the energy projects with the town
Wonderful.
and the committee, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's how these things really kind of can come together when we've got folks in the town that know how to,
and communicating with each other, it's so
Yes.
important.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, we're gonna, you know, the project's gonna live in the community, you know, for 30 years.
Yeah.
We wanna be a good neighbor, we wanna really set it up in a way that, you know, that the town looks fondly upon as well.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the input, that's for sure. Any
Yeah,
other
that was
questions?
great.
It was
Yeah,
that was great.
very, very helpful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Pim.
Yeah.
Thank you
And,
for the
and
time.
really reaching out to the local community because
Yes.
they need to understand benefits.
Yeah.
And especially if they're gonna get some of them with the credits.
Yeah. My intent was, you know, once we can kind of schedule the public hearing, I'd like to, you know, reach out, what we typically do, would reach out to the neighbors of that area, really talk more about visual impact and, you know, what we're thinking about doing with the project. I mean, the site, we do plan on cleaning up that site quite a bit, so it's, I think, a benefit to the community. And then, you know, try to implement green energy where we can in a very, you know, low impact way. So we do plan on making that immediate outreach.
That's really important.
It's important.
Because
Yeah.
we've had some significant pushback west of the canal
Okay,
on environmental projects.
okay, I've
That they're,
heard, yeah.
they're getting all the bad stuff and none of the good stuff,
Yeah.
which is not true,
Yeah.
but perception is reality for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, I plan on trying to set up something in February where I can meet, you know, anybody that would come to talk to them like this, residents, so I'm looking for a room to rent if you
Oh, the
guys.
sustainability
Please.
committee would be of help today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think it's important for the applicant to reach out to the Citizens Advisory
Yeah.
Committee
Yeah.
West.
Yeah, okay, I'd be happy to, yeah.
They'd be happy to hear from you too.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I might need some contact information on that.
Okay,
you know,
sure.
if you can help me out
and
with
Lynn Arthur, so you'll
I can-
meet
I can
Lynn
help
on
you
your
with
way
that.
out.
that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can maybe put you in contact or I can
Yeah.
take it from you.
Do that and I'll hook you up with Emily Sands.
Great, yeah, I've got a card, I can handle
Okay,
Can we, vote maybe on the,
no, we have to close the work session, we have to
and
go
then vote
back
on
into the,
pre-submission comments? Okay.
yeah, yeah. Thank you very much,
Sure.
Mr. Engelmann,
Should I
appreciate it.
finish this? Okay.
I don't think we need to stay
Okay.
No,
Okay,
for the vote.
no,
thank you guys very much for your time, I appreciate it.
thank you.
Pleasure to go through it with you.
So we're closing the work session and going back into the afternoon session, and I see Janice here. So I'm sure Janice would like to come up and
Come
talk
up and
to
op-
us.
And opine.
And
I'm gonna bring Teresa with me.
please.
Do Riverside first?
Yeah, do Riverside number
Because
13
she's an STP guru.
on the,
By fire, it's becoming that west.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
on the agenda. It's number 13, the Riverside Sewage Treatment Plant. That Teresa gave us an overview of it last couple of weeks ago.
I do have copies of the map if you need it as well.
Okay.
And then I also drafted a very, very rudimentary resolution for the planning board to refer to the town board. But if you want to add additional comments, I'm happy to amend the resolution as needed.
When are they voting on it?
Well, the public hearing is being continued into February. February 13th is the next public hearing. It's a continuation of the hearing that was this week on Tuesday. So, again, the map that's coming around is the Phase 1, Phase 2, and then on the back side is the actual STP site, which is mostly what you're going to be looking at.
Is this together?
Yeah.
For you, along with the collection conveyance. If you look on the Phase 1, Phase 2 map, you can see where the approximate sewer mains will be going. But the actual site plan.
There's a purple and yellow map, and the yellow is phase 1.
Purple and yellow.
So that will be the first, so the first thing that's gonna happen is
Yeah, yeah.
this sewage treatment plant will be constructed, and then there'll be hopefully up to 400,000 gallons in phase 1
Treated.
treated.
That's
And
the
that
yellow,
will cover
right?
how many homes in phase 1?
It would cover 234 individual lots, inclusive of the 3 mobile home parks, for a total of 684 connections.
That's in phase 1.
In Phase 1,
So-
Phase 2 is 299 individual lots.
Yeah, so the
Phase
The
1.
idea of the revitalization, as you know, is to capture the existing, like the mobile home parks, so high density,
Right,
and all those antiquated sanitary systems,
right.
and then add some new development to help, revitalize the area. So we're sort of doing that in both phases, but the first phase really trying to capture those high-density mobile home parks and all those teeny tiny lots first.
So it's over 600, right? Over 600 lots?
Over 600.
Yes, total, yes.
And I was not at the last meeting,
Sure.
and I did watch it, but I couldn't see any of this on the
And
video.
just this past Tuesday, we had also a town board hearing on this, which is a nice overview done by Nelson Pope and Voorhees and then the engineer. So if you feel like watching it again, that's also on.
Yeah, no, I watched the planning board meeting.
Right, so I mean, the
Yeah.
town board had a nice presentation done on Tuesday as well.
So where this STP is projected, is that enterprise zone?
Correct.
or
That's the
Light
enterprise park.
industrial,
behind,
the bank,
yes.
yeah, Southern
Yeah.
Federal.
Suffolk
The
Federal,
Suffolk Federal.
I was struggling for the name of the bank, yes, okay.
Yes.
Yes, we're also, part of that plan is the Five Towns College parcel. We're set to close on that as soon as they bring the tower down. So-
You're going to purchase that?
The town is purchasing that. That's our final piece in the puzzle here,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure we had enough space to have an adequate buffer, put the infrastructure behind that buffer, the plant, everything is in a concrete building, and then the leaching is underground.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the leaching.
Yeah.
So the leaching is, let's see, it says here, proposed leaching field.
If you
So
turn
that's-
If you turn the page
over
over.
the map, you'll see the south side of the building is where Phase 1 leaching
The yellow
pools
Oh,
will go.
yes, okay, so that's
And
the
so
leaching
that's the
phase
first
1?
area. Phase 2 will be on the north side.
North side.
Yeah, so phase
Okay.
2 is a while away. We're just trying to really plan for phase 1, but for
Right.
secret, we have to show the whole action. So at first, you won't see anything except a big chunk of woods, that concrete building behind it, and then the leaching. There's some clearing associated with that, which we made an application to the Pine Barrens, because it
Pine
requires more
Barrens.
than 50%
Mhm.
clearing, which, as you know, is in the enterprise zone subdivision compatible growth area.
Right.
But the public benefit
Outweighs.
outweighs
Yeah.
and we've been trying to obtain all kinds of property here to make sure we have like that
Enough.
mass balanced approach.
when do you think it'll be, at least phase one, operational?
Well,
A
I
year,
think
2
we have to
years?
spend the money within like, some of the money.
You got a big grant for this, right?
Well, yes, so I would say 3 years. By the time it's like you switch it on.
Yeah.
You gotta
Because
run
we have a
all
year
those-
of engineering work still
At
to go
least.
forward. We have then bidding to construction period of time.
That's year 2, year 3,
Yeah,
yeah, 3
you
years,
know,
about 3.
I'd rather
Putting in all the sewer
under-promise
lines,
and over-deliver than
connecting
say,
everybody
next
up.
year, and
No.
it's not happening, you know?
Well,
No,
this
it's
look-
too big.
I've seen the Spion Commons STP's building.
Mhm.
Is this bigger?
Yes.
201 times 145, so it is a very large system.
Okay.
It's about, I think, 29,000 square feet is the total.
But it's a great point that it's such a large building, we were even talking about it, like, why not put some solar
Yeah,
on there? on
Yes.
the
Perfect.
building
To run the place.
To run the plant, because
Yeah.
there's some energy
Yeah.
associated with it, so that might be
Yeah.
a comment you make here.
well, we
And
just
this-
made
We
it.
just made it.
Yay.
So just as a point of scale, how big is the building at for Riverhead over on Indian Island Golf Course? Do you know?
I don't know the actual size of the
But
building,
is
but
it-
I did speak
should be
with
about
the
the same.
commissioner there, the superintendent over there, Michael Reichel,
Yeah.
and he says that they process up to 1 million gallons.
I've
That's a lot
actually
bigger.
I've toured that plant,
Really?
yes, with the,
Wow.
with League of Women Voters.
Wow, so how big would you say it is? 50,000?
Yeah.
100,000 square feet, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been there.
But there's also a lot of outside pans of water.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's an
this
older
is-
system.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not
Yeah.
anything like that, so everything is
I
Well,
mean, it was,
outside,
it-
air blowers,
it
and
wasn't
then
odoriferous at
direct
all,
leaching
but,
underground.
but there was a lot of outside stuff.
Right.
This is gonna be computerized, I mean, somebody will be there every day to check and do
Mhm.
water samples, but this is gonna be
Yeah.
a modern system.
So does the town run it, or do you have an outside company that you hire into?
Will probably end up being like a water district where the town board are the commissioners, and then they will decide to either have a municipal department run
Department.
it,
Like-
or
like the
outsource
Hampton
it
Bays
to a
Water
private
District.
entity who
I thought
runs
I
it,
had
or
read-
the county, so there's 3 different ways you can go.
I thought I had read that the town was going to construct it, and then Suffolk County was going to be responsible for operations.
They can be if we
Maintenance.
want them to be, but the town board, it remains to be seen. They have not made that decision yet. The county obviously has wastewater treatment operators
Right.
and all
Yeah.
that good stuff. But municipal things always cost more than private, so nobody's done that
Yeah,
analysis yet as far as that. But we do know the operation, initially is probably $1 million a year, and then as people come online, that number goes down. So, the 3 options are municipal us, municipal county, or private, contracted.
right.
What does Riverhead do with their sewer district? Is it municipal?
It's municipal.
Okay, yep. And water is too, right?
Yeah.
And garbage.
And garbage, yes.
Yes, I wish we had garbage.
Do you have any specific questions? Have you had an opportunity to look through the DEIS? Did we,
Yeah, the 3 options, we talked about, the 3 alternatives were for
Yes.
the effluent, so it was either the
Right.
constructed wetland offsite,
Right.
Right.
injection well onsite, or just traditional leaching.
Leaching.
And
The preferred
You went over
option
that, yeah.
Yeah.
is traditional leaching, although it requires the hardship from the Pine Barrens, but we're
Right.
trying to say, the public benefit
Benefit.
outweighs that,
Right,
and,
and then we just found out that the state law prohibits you from pumping water
the
into.
injection well into the aquifer
So
is
that's
not
just-
even, it's off the
that's not
table
even
entirely.
That just,
Okay.
Yeah,
So I
and
think you-
Riverhead's off the table as far as the other option was just pump all our waste to them, and that was
No.
obviously,
So
they
I
want
think-
us to take stuff
So
I
of
off.
the
think
3
maybe we-
options, we have one?
Pretty much.
so I think maybe we want to say we support that, that
I
option,
think that's,
the leaching option.
I did read the report and, saw those options, and there was another option which was to pump it off-site or something like that.
Right.
Which
Constructed
certainly
wetland.
didn't sound like a great option. But when I looked at the aerial or the map with the water tables and things, it seems relatively close between the water levels, water tables, I guess, and the leaching fields.
So the health department does require a minimum 3-foot separation between the base of the leaching pools and the groundwater table.
Okay.
There were test holes and soil borings done as part of the SDEIS, and that's part of the reason why there's
Such a
so
big
much
area.
area having
Right.
to be devoted to the leaching pools in order to meet that 3-foot groundwater
Because they
separation.
can't be that deep.
Because they can't be deeper, right? So like, my house, I have one leaching pool, 17 feet deep, right? But you can't do that here when you don't have 17, more than 17.
But they have at least like 12, right?
They have like
Yeah,
12.
More than 10.
To- More than 10 to groundwater.
Yes.
Right.
Do you expect approval from the Pine Barrens? Have they seen anything?
We're having our public hearing there with them,
Ah.
and they're meeting in February, which is the third Wednesday of February. So,
And they've had
we hope
materials
so,
ahead of
because
time?
if they don't approve it,
Then
then
you
there
have
is
no
no
option,
sewage treatment
yeah.
plant.
Yeah. But
We
they've
just-
had-
no
they've-
pressure on them.
They've had information ahead of time?
They did receive the secret document. They do have the application. They've had the application for the hardship since the end of December. You know,
But
Yeah,
do
we
you all,
have
do you all
everything.
go and interact with them and talk to them and?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Janice is a
yeah,
commission, is
totally.
an alternate commissioner.
Yeah, well, I'm a
Okay.
designated representative for the supervisor, so I,
Right.
have been talking about this to them for a long time, but we finally, they're an involved agency, since they have to
Okay.
give permission, and then when we came to the preferred alternative and realized it required extra clearing, we did the hardship while the secret record is open, so, and they like that, so
Okay.
everything's happening at the
Together.
same time instead of waiting until afterwards.
But we
to-
have at least one new supervisor, I think, on that board, Dan Panico.
We have Dan Panico, Tim Hubbard, and our supervisor,
That were the-
that are
All
all
three
new.
new people.
Yeah.
Are
So
we an involved?
Teresa will be doing a presentation there.
Oh, good.
Next
Are we
month.
an involved agency?
Yes, you are, because you
You
will
are.
be doing
Because
the
they're doing
site
a
plan.
referral. And
Site
we're,
plan.
You
and
will
we're
have
doing
to
the
do
site plan.
For the treatment plant in the building
Right.
and, all that.
And the building is 29,000 square feet.
I believe so, I can just quickly do that.
So it's like a king column.
Less. King
Um,
Cullen is 40 to 50.
That's
Can
a-
you also just?
29,145 square.
Okay.
Can you also just describe how the areas shaded in yellow get attached to the sewer treatment plant? Is it an opt-in? Is it required? You
It's
know.
going to be required, the health department actually has laws about that, like when
Mhm.
there's sewage treatment available, there's a certain
They
time
have
frame
to.
that you have to connect.
Okay.
We can extend that time frame depending, but the way we see it is that we would do it as like a public works project where we'll connect everyone, so that,
Mhm.
because there's a
So
lot
you
of
have
sort-
sewer
we
lines,
can't
right?
wait. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can put.
I was actually
sewer-
gonna ask you about that, who pays for that connection then?
Actually,
The project pays
CPF
for it.
will pay for that, the water quality
Oh.
grant that we got.
Alright,
We'll
Oh,
pay for
great.
those.
Not the
because that can be
property.
pretty expensive to
Not
get
the
that.
property owners.
Not the property owners,
Yes.
and
And
that's
that-
why it'll be done by Public Works, so that
Right.
we don't have to worry about
Them people
someone
not
hiring a
Someone coming
plumber and
in,
connecting
right.
and none
Yeah.
of that.
And
Just
that's
deal with all of that.
complicated.
Yeah.
I did it personally for my house, and
It seems like it would be.
Yeah.
And so to
have to-
eliminate that whole challenge, we would just deal with it, like
Mm.
rolling block with the force mains, the main conveyance system will be put in, and that's like the lateral connection.
So sewer
from-
lines come
yeah,
from.
like when the,
area.
And
the
the
new water-
systems on the
the new water
property will
line.
have to be abandoned. The
Oh,
old
right.
ones.
yeah.
And does the town do
We're
that?
gonna have to work with the property owners to be getting agreements to own their property and abandon their old system and connect them to the
Big
new system.
project,
It's
massive,
It's a massive project.
massive
Massive.
project.
But
Oh,
the
my
community
Lord.
wants it. They want to be
Yeah.
revitalized. I believe the chair of the Franca came to the first public hearing, Angela.
Yeah. I mean, no one wants to have to cost any more money or really deal with it themselves. So once we take those things out of the
Yeah.
equation,
Yeah,
It's a
then
no-brainer almost.
we should be okay.
And I
And then
think
they
that-
don't have to deal with the maintenance on their own property if
Again-
if their septic system failed. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Tom.
Reading the report, I think the existing nitrogen levels in that area are what, double or triple what,
Right.
It's about
what the
10
standard is,
10
they're
times
accepted,
water.
right,
10
right,
times,
seems
yeah.
Each
very
one
high.
is 60 to 90 milligrams per liter, and now you're gonna get to less than 10.
wow.
So.
That's great for the
is
environment, not only good for people, but it's
Peconic
great for the
Estuary Program
environment.
well, they have baseline, and then there's a plan to do follow-up to
So,
see the improvement?
We've been speaking to the Peconic Estuary Program. They're in support. They are going to get us a letter for supporting of the document. The nitrogen TMPL that was developed in 2007 calls for nitrogen reduction to a level of 0.45, which is really, really ambitious.
we're not gonna get there, but we're gonna get closer than we are, by like a magnitude of 5 or 6, 4 or 5, magnitude. And then, in their TMDL, it does say that it might be worth pursuing traditional sewage treatment versus on-site sewage, septic systems, in order to get closer to that goal. Because that TMDL indicated that groundwater inputs from septic systems and things of that nature are 41% of nitrogen that goes into the river, whereas the sewage treatment plants is 1%.
Oh,
And that
huge.
includes Riverhead and the aquarium's sewage treatment plant.
how does Riverhead operate, leaching, or they have leaching fields?
They have leaching fields, and then in the summertime, they have beneficial reuse on the
On the
Indian
golf
Islands.
On the golf course,
Yeah,
yeah,
the gray water.
gray water.
Which is another comment you may want to make
Yes.
about, like, because there's an adjacent school, and maybe in the summer when there's no one at the school, if there's beneficial reuse.
Beneficial
To
reuse
water
of
the
it,
lawn there, the
Exactly.
fields, that may be something
sure.
we can look into. I don't know if it's permissible by the health department, we would have to see, but that could be another comment.
They probably
you
have
might
a
wanna make.
formula for the gray water, at what
Right,
level it is, how pure it is, and,
yeah,
but God, so many communities do it,
right. And this is tertiary treated to drinking water,
Yeah, it's
standards.
pretty-
The effluent
pretty
going
clear.
is clean water.
Right.
Yeah.
It may not be able to be done under phase 1, or maybe even phase 2, but as a future,
I would say
initiative.
that's a
Yeah.
strong comment.
And the other thing
Certainly.
I would also mention is that there's, this weighing out of what's the better system itself, the membrane bioreactor or the single batch. And you can watch Tom Lembo talk about that. I'm not an engineer, so it's not my expertise, but the health department also is leaning toward this membrane bioreactor because there's a lot more like filtration and potential to add like carbon filters and other things to treat PFAS. So it may have better technology.
Takes other things out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're still weighing that out, but maybe the comment you would say is, you support the technology that has the greatest potential for treatment or something, without committing yourself entirely, but that's what we want too, right? We want like
Yeah,
the
exactly.
highest and best treatment
Right.
level, so that,
You're not gonna go through all of this trouble and not have,
well, that's
The
the
best
thing, right?
result.
I'm not going through all this trouble just to be like, oh, it's not as good as it could be 10
No,
years from now
no.
or
And
if
something. We
this
want the
is-
thing that could,
If this is adaptable to new technology, that
right,
makes sense.
yeah, because that keeps changing,
right.
right, George? All the
Yes,
technology
Right, so we
changes
want
all
the
the
most,
time, up to
highest
date.
level of, yeah, up to date.
Particularly since it's, it's going to happen over a multi-year timeframe.
Right.
What you start with might not be what you end up with.
Right,
I tried to click on there's a FEMA link to, I think, their insurance, flood insurance maps in the technical appendix.
Didn't
Clicked
work?
on it, took me to, you needed a certificate to go further, and I didn't know how to get over that hurdle.
That's usually an internet browser certificate, it sounds like.
Okay. I presume this is not in one of the hurricane flood zones.
No,
the
there should be
slosh-
a-
the
Slosh
actual treatment
maps,
is out
right.
of there.
I mean,
We're-
where this is, no, but some of these property along here probably have.
Right, it's
Do you
pretty
have
far
that
from the
overlay on
bay,
GEIS?
That's why we
We
bought
do.
them.
We do.
That's why we-
Okay.
GIS.
I kind of assumed we wouldn't put it in a spot where it was gonna flood, but. Oh, thank you.
Good suggestion.
What's the red zone, Claire? I can't see.
That would be a zone with,
A,
an
active.
AE,
Highest.
an active zone,
The
yeah.
second highest flood zone of the BE.
Well, it's right there by the river,
Thank you.
There's a super, we're quite a way out of it.
yeah.
Yeah, so we made sure we're out of the flood zone, and that was the issue with the constructed wetland, was like
Yeah.
making sure it was out of the flood, that's why DEC didn't really prefer that option, although they didn't say it in writing.
So DEC had to bless this.
They still do, yes.
They still
give
do as
us
part
the
of
speedies
secret.
permit, the discharge
Ah.
permit.
Okay.
Just, Tom, just for your information, if you go back onto the website to look through it, it's figure 3.6 on the figures link.
Okay, maybe I missed that in the.
That's very dramatic.
I wouldn't want to be living in that red zone.
No.
Most of that's preserved, so
Mhm.
good news, all that up top.
Okay, any other additions that we can add to our referral comments?
No, I think we're good.
Did you want to vote on this today as as amended to conclude our discussion, or did you want me to bring it back at the next meeting?
I'm okay
No,
with
let's
it.
vote,
I think
let's
we're-
vote on
yeah.
it, we're good.
Great.
We can maybe even pass a test.
So today, we're saying
Just
we
send it to
support
us,
the
Teresa.
establishment of a sewer district and the construction of a sewage treatment plant that will be designed through the process of.
Right, and then
Because there's
also.
still a
And then
lot of
all those
variables to
comments.
consider, right?
And then also that you would support the construction of solar atop the building, and you support the leaching pool option, that beneficial reuse of the gray water at the schools should be explored in the future, and that you want the highest, best treatment technology available.
Schools are municipal sites, I mean, it could also be, you know.
We say
the
school
lawn.
because you can see it's literally right next door to the south.
Okay,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It's-
there's also,
It's-
there's a
Yeah,
community
that's-
center
that's what I'm
there
saying.
and,
The community center is actually in Flanders,
Yeah,
it's
kind
of
down
all the way
further,
over.
so
Okay.
you would have to pipe it
Yeah.
outside of the district.
The Head
Okay.
Start place is right here though.
That's true, but they
Yeah.
don't really have a lot of
It's right here.
open
Right.
areas.
That's closer toward the floodplain. We kind of want to get.
This way, yeah.
Yeah.
and the community outreach, we encourage community outreach and education.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, on everything,
Everything.
everything.
How that's gonna go.
When, well, right now, someone that would be in that area is not paying for any processing of their sewage treatment, just going into presumably a very old ring.
Unless it
with no tank.
overflows.
And so is there a financial impact they're gonna be paying then into the sewer district? And is there any, I guess that would be a comment, if there is a hardship for operating within the sewer district for those folks that are gonna receive the capital investment from the town to connect, but then would have an additional operating burden.
Well, it's really a user fee after
right.
that, and we talked to the town board about creating a grant program for low-income households to
Okay,
sort of
right.
pay that
Exactly, Okay.
debt.
great.
Right, so maybe that would be your last comment. You
Mhm.
support such a program being created for the low-income
Yeah,
households
Yeah.
to offset their user
Yeah.
fees.
Because that's,
And that's actually part
idea.
of the larger discussion that is going to be happening on the 14th, or the 13th of February. Is the district formation, part of that district formation public hearing is discussing the financial impact to
Right,
the constituents. The map plan and report estimates about $250 a year. But again, they've talked about operations and maintenance grants and things like that.
Right, it's like say in the mobile home park, the mobile home park would just connect the whole thing, but we don't want the, like, owner of the mobile home park to then pass on costs to all
No,
those
right,
individuals that
no.
they're receiving that benefit, so we need to like work out this way of agreement to not,
right,
make sure they don't do that,
exactly,
so the people in those mobile home parks don't have to
the burden of it.
have the burden of it,
Yeah.
correct?
And, getting those mobile home parks on the sewage treatment plant is key, because they're right next to all of those critical environmental resources, Sarnoff Preserve, Conic River,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see both of them right there. That one
There's
and
one,
this one right
and
there.
there's one. Yeah.
wow, the density. Amazing.
So Janice, after phase one and phase two, that would be max capacity? There'd be no room for scaling up after that?
No, yeah, I know.
and you talked last time about the connection of the jail and
I'm sorry,
wasn't there
Yeah,
something
jail and
with
the, and the.
the county
jail,
center.
and that's all included in phase 1 and 2 flow?
It's
or that
not,
would-
that's a comment that was made on the record by Town of Riverhead, that they, Riverside County Center is in the town of Southampton, and they're contracted into the Riverhead district, and they should instead be included in our
Right.
district.
Right.
We, as in our FEIS, we would respond to that comment by then having a map and being like, well, here, because we don't have it laid out in our map plan report, we don't have it anywhere.
Mm,
So we would have to say, well, this is what it would look like and how to phase it in, or what the pros and cons are.
Mhm.
You know, we haven't analyzed it, so,
Right. It was
It's
just
hard to
something that
say.
they want
they want them off,
off,
so
and
they can realize their own objectives. the town board may or may not be interested in,
May not have the capacity, right?
we,
Yeah.
we just have to see how that would all work out.
Yeah,
You know, how much revenue that would generate, how much we have to set aside for them,
right.
how would that impact our objectives? So there's a little more.
What do they do now? I mean, they pay the Riverhead for
They
the,
pay Riverhead, and then a surcharge on top of that, because
Mhm.
they're like an out-of-district
Right.
user. In this case, they'd be in our district, like in the district boundary, or the boundary, you can always change the boundaries, but then you have to file a new map and plan report and kind of go through this all again.
right,
Because it's always it's a taxing district.
right.
So you can't just be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you're in. No, you have to then go through this whole thing all over again. So we can't go back right now, but we can take a look at it.
And the critical thing is that this is supposed to support the Riverside redevelopment and revitalization,
Right.
right? To attract, you know, to connect the existing homes and improve the environmental quality there, and try and attract investment in the community.
Yeah, so, and as much as it achieves those objectives, we'll have to look at it. We can't commit either way because that's up to the policymakers and they're not
Right.
there.
Good, good. Okay, just terrific. So let's take a vote on the referral as Teresa has written, and you can send us a report, Teresa.
Yes, I'll make the amendments and I'll
as the
email it
document.
tomorrow.
So motion by George, second by Tom, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
walking this through. It's so helpful to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so
And
much. And
then
then if I could just jump
Janice.
on again with
Yeah.
Seth. This one is another,
You switch your assistant.
Switch your support.
to our.
Battery storage.
Battery
Hello,
storage
everyone.
moratorium
Okay,
extension.
So, yeah, this is the complete opposite. Now we need total inaction and extension of moratorium as we get more, or the findings
As
back.
always happens, every moratorium is extended.
It is, okay, well, this is
Historically.
no exception. We had initial findings that were released, and I can quote them from Governor Hochul's office. Available analysis finds no reported injuries and no harmful levels of toxins detected at sites of battery storage fires. So that was an interesting finding.
That's a state, this is the
That's
state.
Governor Hochul's office, the
Mhm.
press release. We haven't seen any formal studies yet. This is
Ah.
just press releases so far.
Uh-huh.
And they said, I'm sorry, they did say they were going to have specific, what did they call those?
Guidelines?
Action, things on the actual sites.
That they,
Root cause
Yes.
Ah. analysis for each and every site that had a fire, what caused it, what happened on the site, and those are still forthcoming.
Yes, they're still continuing their inspections, but they have found that no toxins were evident. They are working on redeveloping the fire code, any codes that are pertinent to battery storage. They are not released yet. So
so we
we're,
have to wait for the state to formalize their plan.
They're
Sure.
gonna give us recommendations, right? They're gonna give everyone in the state of New York their own ideas, and this is Homeland Security, Department of State, DEC, like all the,
They're all
you know,
weighing in.
NYSERDA, all these entities have, Office of Fire Prevention, all these people come together to say what they're finding, but we haven't received an official report yet.
Right.
So we're waiting on that. The other thing is we want to do our own land use study, as we've discussed, and you just said to CVE about a little energy sort of
Overlay.
understanding where these things belong and don't belong, and as I mentioned to you last time, there's only 2 residential zones where they're permitted in, because those zones had substations in them. But if the town board says, forget, we're never putting megawatt scale battery storage in a residential zone, they only just have to amend the land use code and put X and two
In the-
other
in the use,
zones.
yeah.
And then that takes a lot of the angst away from some of the people who are
Right.
upset. But then, what do you do after that? We only have, so we wanted to do a small land use study of like, well, do we need more industrial zones? Where does this belong?
You need like to build more,
Or
more,
should there be
more
levels
substations.
of size?
Right,
I
we
think
kind of went
it's-
from 600
to-
kilowatt hours
to
to and above.
infinity.
Yeah,
Not
Right.
expecting anyone to come in with 100 megawatt.
yeah.
Because we were just following the NYSERDA way of doing it. So
Yeah.
we can say, well, no, you can have only this much,
Mhm.
less than a megawatt in a row, you know, it just remains to be seen. So
Yeah.
what we're saying is we need a little more time
Yeah.
to
Right.
get that straightened out.
Yeah, I mean, we're allowing battery storage in a home to
Yes.
support solar, and I'm plugging my car in, so I've got a battery in my garage. And those are little.
Right. And that's the other option, you know, decentralized, right?
Yes, that's right.
The
Yeah,
other
that's
idea
been,
is that
Like,
yeah.
was it the state of Maine? That was the.
Yes.
And-
Vermont.
Vermont.
Vermont,
Yes,
yeah.
they're
I knew it
going
was one
to-
of those up there.
Starting a leasing program where they
Right.
will, the Green Power will lease Tesla batteries to every homeowner. And they will control those batteries and the recharging and the distribution of
Yeah.
that energy.
But there's
So
also a
each
lot
person will
of
be,
science going on about non-lithium batteries now.
Absolutely.
Lithium's being replaced with
So
other
we-
minerals or even
Well,
water
advances
tested.
also, advances in safety and speed
Yeah.
and, you know, recharge times and all that stuff.
So by the time, well, I don't think it's gonna happen in 6 months, but, you know,
So as
maybe
far
a
as
year or
the,
two.
the process, the idea is to extend the moratorium, at some point get the governor's report, which I think is focused basically on fire safety, it's important. But the aspect of the siting, the land use review, we had talked about, you know, the town hiring a consultant, and I think you had mentioned you were working with some of the other towns, comparing notes.
Yeah.
So what would you say, at some point where we would hire a consultant to help with the land use study?
Yes,
Or bring it
absolutely.
in-house and try to,
We would love to get that scope of work. We've been waiting for our consultant to kind of, they were working with like different components of their own agency to figure out who can help them and get like commitments from their internal planners and engineers, like, and so that we could kind of pick à la carte based on what we needed. And then I could bring that scope of work to the town board and they could say, okay, well, we need, you know, someone about this energy plan, and then we want the land use planner to, you know, and then we want, you know, like, what did we want? So they've been trying to like put this thing together for us. It's
The
taken
consultant.
longer than.
who's
Yeah.
that NYSERDA is putting that
No,
together?
no,
or-
we reached
Association
out
of
to many
Towns?
consultants, but VHB was the one that was doing this. So we hope to get that proposal from them and
Yeah, that
talk
would
it
be
over
good.
with the town board. We don't even know how much they would charge us to do this work, so that's another consideration, is how much budget we have to put toward it.
Mm.
But that would be the hope, is that, and then they would interface with the public, who has a
Mhm.
lot of input to
Question.
give, and then take in all these reports and all these other states who have done all these interesting things, and kind of come up with a game plan of like how we're going to do it here.
You're
in
gonna need another
Southampton.
6 months on top of these 6 months.
Right.
It's,
Well, like I said, we can also incrementally amend the law. Ultimately, we'd love to do it holistically.
yeah, sure.
But if there's an issue where we just say, well, let's just take the residential megawatt scale
Out
Out.
of
out of
residences.
residential as
Right.
an interim
The
step.
X's, yeah.
Right.
That would be fine, and
Mhm.
then look at the second step as this.
Right.
That would relieve
Right.
some of the pressure of the
Right.
extending the
And
moratorium.
as I always say, I mean, some pressure has to be brought on LIPA and PSEG to put
We
some
have-
new equipment in and not rely on what's these small things that they have around town in
And
the
one of
East
the
End.
initial things we did was meet with PSEG and
Yeah.
LIPA and say, well, what about
Investing,
you?
yeah.
Like, why are we doing all the hard work?
Right.
What are you doing?
Right.
And they were like, well, you know, you don't even, you know, their recommendation was have them do an interconnect agreement first before they ever even came to us.
Exactly.
Because
That's
they're
what they were doing,
speculative to
yeah.
some degree
Mhm. Yes,
until they had that.
yeah.
And that would make a lot of sense, but we didn't know that
Mhm.
because we don't know how they
Mhm. How they
operate.
operate.
So that's another thing.
Mhm.
But somebody might, it's very expensive and time consuming to go through that with them
Mhm.
if they then are gonna get declined here. So
It's
it's
a
literally like,
chicken
which
and
comes
egg.
first, and
Yeah.
that's frustrating.
Well, it would be
Because we
good,
say we want these things, but then at the same time,
where? Yeah,
where,
but
and
it would
maybe we
be,
don't.
it really would be good for them to make a proposal, and maybe the town board can make this effort that, to invest, certainly in Southampton, but the east end of Long Island, because some investment, major investment has not been done in years and years and years, and so we're stuck with
Well, that's,
an aged infrastructure.
I'm not gonna defend LIPA, but there has been some fairly significant infrastructure change to allow for the wind farm to come into
In
town.
East Hampton, yeah.
And I think they put in a new cable under the Shinnecock Canal.
Really? I
Yeah.
don't know about that.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure,
I know it comes in Wainscott. Sagaponic,
Because
yeah.
they can't land the cable without the host community knowing about it, so I don't
Exactly
believe
right.
that
yeah,
they-
I
they-
thought
They
they
wouldn't
did,
do any-
I thought they
without
did
us.
I think
some
the
that
Shinnecock.
We did the water main
I was gonna say
across the
that-
Shinnecock Canal. We did a water,
Yeah,
main
Maybe that's it.
extension.
But anyway, I
I'm
mean, I
of
think,
a little
I
knowledge.
think those negotiations have to happen, and somebody on the town board needs to spearhead it.
Yeah, so what do you recommend the 6
Yes,
months?
oh,
extension?
yes, I
Do you have
say,
any
how
comment, just
how
saying
about,
you wanna be included in any planning study?
I would, I would
And-
recommend certainly 6 months, but,
Maybe more.
and maybe more. I mean, you've got a lot of work to do.
And Janice, where's the county on this as well? Especially if you have roads that are going over a prospective site. Shouldn't they be involved in the conversation and weigh in?
100%. So early on, we reached out to the chief planner, Andy Freeling, but as you know, he left the county, so.
He did.
He did.
Where is he?
He went to Port Jeff Village, so.
As what, chief planner, or?
Yeah, whatever
Who?
the title is.
Andy Freeling.
Andy.
Left Suffolk County, he was a chief planner for like
Right.
30
Yeah.
years,
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And
Maybe
now
he
he
wa-
left.
sounds like
But
he wants to
before he
retire.
left, we were meeting about all this, and
Yeah.
I was saying, maybe we can have the county planning, you can request as a town municipal planning services from county planning.
Ah.
I don't know if you knew that, but that's
Yeah.
like a thing.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to get Andy to kind of commit some services to us.
Sure.
To have them do like a regional approach.
Yeah.
So that they could be an integrating force, and then, cause like I mentioned, Town of Huntington reached out and they were like, we're doing a moratorium and we're in the same boat, and then maybe we
Everybody-
can have the same, like, we're trying to make it, we don't wanna have such different standards everywhere
Every
that it's
town.
very
Like
hard
a
to do things.
patchwork quilt, yeah.
And you may recall the uniform solar code that we did years ago, so that we wouldn't have that. So in an interest of doing something similar, Huntington reached out, we had a meeting with the county and Huntington, and then we said, well, let's reach out to Riverhead, Southold, see if anybody else wants
there's
to
a
do
committee?
this, and create like a round table.
Yeah.
Reached back out to LIPA, they said they would participate, NYSERDA, and and we also
Yeah.
had a meeting, like I said, with LIPA and PSEG and our fire safety and public safety folks. So we could do our own kind of smaller.
Is
So
there
who
some,
replaced-
there's some sort of every 4-year new report, terms of license or whatever for this fire safety? I was listening to the Sustainability Committee meeting, and Ryan Murphy was talking, and there's something new coming out, like in a year maybe?
Emergency management plans? Is that
Yes.
what the
Yeah, you were
gentleman
at,
speaking
I
about?
was
Yeah,
on,
he was-
I was on Zoom, you were at,
He was
you were.
speaking about emergency management plans and how it related to BES and what they'll be looking into in the future, but they don't have a specific plan that's devoted to BES.
Right.
Just hazardous,
So who's
toxic
replaced Andy
gases.
Freeling? No one?
Not yet. Well, now we just got a new county exec,
Right,
and so we don't have a new chief planner yet.
yeah.
So that's, part of also the delay. So, we need that. One of their veteran planners is Ted Klein, and he's been handling our
Yeah.
referrals anyway. So, we just think we need more time, and we really do
You
wanna
definitely
have,
need more time to make a
more
sensible,
involvement of everyone and anyone who wants to.
a cohesive,
understand
comprehensive.
what's out.
It's too early to make a suggestion about the residential zone.
I think it would be better to
Premature.
come here when we have maps and
Yeah,
plans and
yeah.
say, but here is just, do you agree with extending the
Yeah.
moratorium
Mhm.
and any
Yes.
recommendations related there too? So if you wanna say yeah.
6 to 12 months, I would say.
I'll motion for
6 to
that.
12 months.
To extend the
Yeah.
moratorium.
I mean, and
Yeah.
just that,
Yeah.
as you're suggesting, coordination across communities and the county and then the state, because this is new and we're having to reinvent the wheel and we shouldn't.
Yeah, I
At
mean,
least do
when
it
it came out,
together.
we thought this was gonna be the greatest thing, and then it turned into these fires and then all these
Yes.
problems
Right.
and really, it has a lot to do with our renewable energy future. If we don't have a way to store energy, then
Sure.
we're not going to get there.
But we have old infrastructure, so we need to do something
Especially the
about
cost
that.
avoidance of millions and millions of dollars to bring fossil fuel across to the east side of the canal and bring it from the other side. It's, you know, you have to realize, like, we don't have,
So separately, some of these community solar projects might also have a community benefit of adding to each household a, like, decentralized battery storage, so that the power that's coming off of there could be stored in each individual home to power it during peak demand.
right?
Which would be interesting.
That would be great. And maybe you invite Lynn,
She left.
Yeah.
she is, to come and talk about that, because she's been trying to
Right.
figure that out.
Except that like, PSEG would want it.
Right.
They're not gonna,
You know, they're, right, but maybe we need to also have them, you know, come and say, what are their objectives exactly? Like, so they have their own objectives, and they're kind of above our local zoning when it's on their own
Yeah.
property.
And we're kind of opaque to, we don't really know what their rules are and how they operate, right? We're finding
They
that out
just
as we
issue
go.
these
Exactly.
RFPs, and they issue these things, and we don't know when they're coming, and we don't hear about
when we
it.
had the people who were applying for some of these best things, they were solicited by PSEG,
Right.
who said, there's this property, and this property, and you should look at it and put in a plan. Well, that was the tail wagging the dog, you know, I
Because they
mean,
had the infrastructure to easily
because
accept
they
it.
have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's backwards.
Yeah.
It's totally backwards in a small, you know, we have a small contained geography here. It's unique. And so,
And our
But we're so
utility is
fragile and so scary about if there's a coastal storm.
It is.
we're
Well,
not
so like
prepared.
having
Yeah.
those individual battery energy storage could then be backup energy also for those homes in the area, which is even more of a community benefit.
Yeah, and
But-
like
but-
microgrids are ways away, not having these
Right.
big power plants and big
can't have it
battery
here.
things. Maybe it's decentralized and it's smaller, but it's a lot everywhere.
That's
It's almost
right.
our approach to affordable housing
What-
too, like nobody should have the
Mhm.
burden of like one giant thing.
And as, you know, I said that the last time, you know, I think the code we have right now, which gives us, you know, the up to 600, is actually, could actually work. If we said, for example, that every site plan that comes in for a medical office should have a battery backup to supply their needs, and they can use that, you know, find a way to use that and cut the use off to, like, I mean, and every household have access to something, right?
But-
It could work, and
Yes, but
it is
right-
working in other places.
Right now, the way
Right.
the infrastructure is set up, you can't use your storage when the power goes off.
That's why you need like a microgrid that
Yeah.
goes into like an island mode, so that you're your own
Right.
thing outside of the main
Mhm.
grid, and then that's where these microgrids become very important.
But that's your solar
Yes.
thing, right? You can't use
That's-
solar.
Because then you'll
Or-
shock someone on the other
Yeah,
end if
or
you're
even-
running your
yeah.
own.
I mean, you have to be able to shut off your connection to the grid
Yeah,
in order
sure.
to take in.
Right, and so I think having those kinds of microgrids where you can shut off from the main grid, be in a little island unto yourself, and
Self-sustaining.
have the pharmacy still open, the grocery store
Yeah.
still there, you know, you power some homes, you know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
we're really in an outage, you can last for like 2 weeks
A different
on
generator,
a
different kind of
system.
generator.
Yeah.
And then when that system, main system comes back online, you can go off.
back.
And that's that whole idea of resilience.
Right,
Mhm.
but boy, it's a big project.
So it seems to
Between
me,
that and the sewage treatment plant.
That's
seems to
just
me,
the
we're
before
talking about,
breakfast.
we're talking about
And
2025.
we're not talking about Montauk going into
Before we
the
can
ocean.
handle it.
I motion to extend the moratorium.
Yes, a motion to,
Do we need-
6 to 12 months.
Do we need to give you a specific time, or?
No, 6 to 12
So,
sounds fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
So motion by Kate,
second.
second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Can you send us, please, the written, what you write up?
Yes.
Yeah, because Teresa's going to send us that on
Yes.
STP,
My
and
pleasure.
this is
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Keep it going. Okay, thank you.
I think we need an energy overlay.
We do. Janice, you heard that?
He's talking about eating something.
Oh, All right,
I'm the only one that got you.
let's go back to our 325, number 2, 325 Rose Hill Road. Is Anthony here?
He was.
Step out.
do you want to?
Well, we'll jump to you, yeah. Let's do Teresa's then. Number 3. That's a covenant amendment.
It is, I have here for you in your review.
14 East Woods Path, Sagaponic. Secretary has requested that when we call an application, that the formal address be given so that she can track what she's doing.
And so the people on Zoom know what we're talking about.
Great. So again, this is a covenant amendment for the property known as 14 Eastwood Path in Sagaponic. They are seeking to amend the existing covenant, which limited the clearing to, I believe, 30%, to bring it into compliance with what APOD offers, which is 50%. If you look at the survey that was provided, they are in compliance with the 50% requirement under APOD. And we have done this for several other parcels in the subdivision.
The six lot subdivision, is it all, have they all finished now with their requests, do we know?
I don't know if they're all finished. I know that we've had like 3 or 4 covenant amendments in this particular subdivision, but the subdivision is quite large, so we may see more in the future.
Okay. Okay, I think this is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
We've done this before.
Yeah.
Motion to,
Motion.
motion by Gloria, second by
Second.
Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
For some reason, it appears that it didn't get put on the agenda, but we have a referral from the Zoning Board of Appeals on 2297 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton. We do have a pre-submission conference on this evening, and I do have a draft resolution just recommending that the zoning board postpone review of the project until
Till we
we've had
have
an
a public
opportunity to
hearing.
review and consider it.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind walking that on, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay, let's,
Again, if you want to see it, it's up here on the aerials, and you are having a pre-submission conference hearing on it this evening.
tonight.
I did email you also, they were before the Landmarks Committee,
Mhm.
because this is now the new Bridgehampton Main Street, Bullhead to Main Street Historical
Historic
District.
District.
And this is
So there were some comments
another,
from the
another
Landmarks
Farrell
offices that
office
referred
building.
over.
It's the Farrell Office Building, right. Okay, so, you want to read this to us, read it into the record, and then we'll vote on it?
I didn't keep a copy of it, I'm sorry.
You need a copy?
She's
Here.
getting one.
Whereas the planning board received a referral for the property known as 2297 Montauk LLC on January 17th, 2024, and whereas the planning board has yet to review the application, and whereas a pre-submission conference is scheduled for 6 p.m. January 25th, 2024, whereas the pre-submission conference may necessitate project modifications that may require changes to the recommended variances, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board recommends the zoning board of appeals postpone a decision on the variance application until a pre-submission conference report has been prepared.
Sounds straightforward?
Yeah.
We're okay with that, council? Yeah. Okay, any motion? Motion by Kate, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thanks for catching that, Teresa.
Thank you.
Let's see where we are now. Anthony's still not back up, right? Claire, you want to jump in with
Have we lost, oh,
Tahai LLC?
Yeah, that's just a distribution. I have the report for you, we'll consider it for the next meeting.
The action deadline's February 22, okay.
Yeah, but I'm not here the 22nd, so I'll do this decision on February 8th, so.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward, it's just a horse farm that's been approved. They just have some additional structures that put on the property, so it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, you'll go over it with us?
Yeah, we'll go over it on the 8th of February.
Nothing that you want to share with us now?
No.
Take this home and read it? Is that right?
Take it home and read
Work
it.
for you.
Okay.
Nighttime when you want to fall asleep.
Exactly.
Okay, how about Sunrise of
Yeah, that one I
Span?
have, and this one I will review with you.
Number 6, Sunrise at Spiank, Rumsenberg, 1313 Spiank, Riverhead Road.
There's a couple site plans, very consideration.
no action on,
No action.
No, just distribution.
It's a distribution.
Okay.
It's, action deadline, it's not. This is the site plan. So this site, is on Spiank Riverhead Road. It's actually one of, the 3 lots that are in a row. Delandro was the other one we just
Oh,
reviewed. It
Delandro.
was very similar to that. Jeffrey Delandro.
Yeah,
I think we approved that end of last year.
is this in that whole area with the?
Yeah, I can
oh,
pull it
yeah,
up on
put
the-
it up, Claire.
yeah. This is just the elevations. so you can
Yeah,
see.
Broidy's is to the,
East, and this
East.
is on the west side.
right,
It's like light industrial road.
light industrial road, exactly. With this huge swale and all this pollution that came from this.
Yeah.
Did you say the address?
1313 Spion.
I did.
You did, okay.
Now, these are buildings that we should strongly consider.
Solar.
Strongly recommend.
Yeah.
Solar.
Yeah.
So this one,
we
this
need
one to
some-
the south, is the Delandro site, and then this is the one that's Sunrise at Spion, right here. So,
So it's Sunrise at Spion, Delandro.
this is one in the middle is Excelsior Plumbing, I think, or was approved as Excelsior
It
Plumbing.
is, yeah.
And then this
That's
is Delandro.
Delandro.
Yeah.
And what's below? Vacant?
I don't know what this use is, actually, I'm not familiar with this property.
But
So-
those are all sites,
These were part of the same subdivision, they have buffers in the fronts,
right.
the 50-foot buffer in the front, the 50-foot buffer in the rear. And the proposal is a very similar building to this. At this time, it's gonna be smaller, it's gonna be 3,000 square feet, and they're doing outdoor storage. But they may do an extension in the future, they just haven't proposed it at this time.
So they're gonna have to clear all those trees.
Up to 50% clearing.
They have that, right.
Yes, and so that will be permitted, just as I said, just like this site and just like the Landro site. It's been reviewed by Pine Barrens, their comments are attached also.
Okay.
So it's a 50 by 60 square foot metal building, a board office, it's 2 storage bays. And the applicant provided a sketch for an expanded building as contemplated as a phase 2, but that's not being considered at this time. The subject property was created as lot number 3 of the subdivision, Farmland Estates. That allowed 25% clearing, and so they're also amending their covenant to be up to the 50% as permitted by the code. SECRA, it was a negative declaration issued on November 9th. Public hearing was last meeting, January 11th. There were no comments received during the public hearing or during the written comment period. If you want to go over the attached
Yeah.
comments, the fire marshal described the application, said proposed work shall not impede emergency vehicle access to the property, street and unit numbers, drainage and leaching pools to be relocated out of the roadways or capable of supporting the heaviest apparatus. So that'll be a condition. The proposed asphalt fire lane is not required, however, proposed fire lane shall be kept clear of vehicles, so that'll be requirements. And the fire zone signage. Clarification of the proposed outdoor storage and storage bays required. Additional requirements may be needed depending on intended use, so that would be a definite.
Claire, can I ask you to speak into the microphone?
Oh, yeah. You can't hear me?
I can, but the audience won't be able to on.
On Zoom? Okay.
Nope,
Okay. How's that? Do you think that's closer?
much better, thank
Okay.
you.
The key boxes, the area served by public service, water mains and fire hydrants, and additional fire safety concerns will be addressed during the formal building plan review. So that's the fire marshal. The town engineer said it was complete, but had a number of items that will be made conditions of approval. The Board of Fire Commissioners for Eastport had no concerns. The County Department of Economic Development said it was a matter of local determination. And Sunrise at Spion
These are the minutes.
Why would it go to the county for a referral, Claire?
All special exceptions.
Special-
Yeah,
Okay.
go to the county. So summarizes Spionk, it's the top of those minutes. I just copied that whole page of minutes, but it's the top page. So the planning board, the ARB approved, recommended approval, and there were no public comments for the building. So just taking a look at the building right now, it's got a substantial buffer in the front. So I'm not quite sure if you wanted any features or breaking up. The building is only 26 feet tall, so it's not so tall as other industrial buildings can be. They can be up to 40 feet if they wanted to be. So I don't know if you wanted any features to break it up. It should be pretty screened by that 50-foot buffer in the front, so.
Yeah, you drive down that road, it doesn't feel like,
You
big
can see the
buildings
buildings,
on
really.
top of
Yeah.
you. The buffers really do help it.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, good, that's one of the points. So we can go through the site plan, there's the special exception standards and the site plan standards, but I will just want to mention on the bottom of page 2, going back to the report, this is the covenant amendment, up to the 50%. So there will be a whereas that says covenant amendment for that.
Should we vote on the covenant amendment first? We have to, because it's a different requirement.
You could do that.
It's
So what I did for
it's a
Delandro.
supermajority, yeah.
Yeah, there's not a super majority in this case. I think it's just,
Every covenant amendment, no?
it depends on how it's written.
Depends on what it says. I haven't seen this, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I'll double check. But if it does need a super majority, yeah, we can do 2 resolutions
Right,
at the time of the
I think that would
decision.
be good.
Okay. I will double check that, and I will give it to Christine to get to. So the next thing is the aquifer protection. So they're allowed clearing up to 50% pursuant to the 2 parts of the code, which is the aquifer and the central pine barrens. We're recommending a project limiting fence to be a condition of approval. So the site is within 1,000 feet of the DEC documented potential hazardous waste sites. As with past commercial applications, the applicant has agreed that to no basement, only slab construction in this case. So this was the site for when the remediation happened. You can see this is where the water runoff came to be. But this has actually been revegetated over the last 10 years. It's a nice little grasslands area in the back, so it's a nice habitat. So the special exception criteria, I'm not quite sure if you want me to go through this. This is kind of a standard language on it. They meet all the parking requirements. If you want me to go through it, I will, but, it's just pretty standard information.
Do any of them pop out?
No, the ones that are very specific would be maybe I, that talks about the parking, but they're required 20 spaces and they're proposing 31, so they're way over the parking requirements that they need on the property.
And where is the entrance coming in? Just right off,
Do
that
you have the
main
site
road?
plan? I forget if it's to the north or south. I think it's
Yeah,
the north
it's
side.
the north
Yeah.
side, Span Riverhead Road.
Actually, I could get the site plan up here.
Yeah,
too.
It's not.
Yeah, there it is. It's on the north
north
side.
side.
So if not the special exception criteria, you want to just touch base with the site plan standards?
Why do they have a concrete wall there on the north side, Claire?
There is a
Is there
little bit of a
grade?
slope. Yeah, so they want to make it would slope to the north. It slopes down to the north, so they want to create a flatter area. And so there's a retaining wall on that north side.
Proposed concrete wall.
Do you want me to mention that under pavements?
Yeah,
Okay.
And the town engineer wants a rail there,
Yes. And more
a
details.
guardrail.
Mhm.
It's a drop off.
really? That much of a drop off?
It
Well, it's about
is.
5 feet. Down on the west side, the top of the wall is 55 and your elevation there is about 48. So there's like a 7-foot drop off.
And up there, George? what
Up
have they
here,
done?
it's
'Cause
it's less, right? It becomes less. So
It's pretty
it
flat at the
gets
beginning of the
higher.
property and then it
And
drops off in
So
that
this area
corner.
here is about 4 to 5 feet. Up here, it's almost at ground level. So that
Okay.
kind of ground level and gets higher and then comes back over to ground level again.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of especially a slab construction, you know, if you had a basement or something, you can kind of work with that and
Right.
work on a slope side, but you
But
slab
slab, it's
construction,
that grade,
you
yeah.
need it pretty much level.
Claire, who owns that pit to the west? That scary looking pit with the concrete and the tires and,
This
Oh,
one?
wow.
yeah.
Oh,
Whoa.
gosh.
Do you know who owns that?
What is it?
Well,
It's
this
the
is
scary Spionk pit.
this whole thing, right?
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
my Lord.
Well,
It goes
let's
all
see.
the way down from,
Yeah, it's huge. It's got busted up concrete in there. I don't know who owns it.
It's just called One High Street. So we,
is it a landscaping company?
I think it's like I think this is a sand mine.
Is it an abandoned sand mine? I don't think there's, I've never seen any activity out, on it.
I've only been on the site once. The planning board had approved a cell tower in the northern part of this, if you remember. There's a cell tower off of Sunrise
Right,
Highway.
right, yeah.
That was approved.
But
Um,
this is in the Pine Barrens compatible area?
It is in the Pine Barrens compatible area. It
I
is,
imagine.
yeah, we could look over the years, but I imagine this is pretty old.
It's pretty old.
It's 1976.
Junk?
Yeah, what is that?
Let's see, 1962. Not there.
Claire, what's the other
It's
thing
not
on
there.
the side?
What's the, yeah, what's the other?
The what?
The cratted piece that's got all kinds
Yeah.
of.
This?
Yeah.
That is a junkyard. There's a junkyard here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
Pine Barrens Commission was functioning then or not?
No, 1995, 4,
Yeah.
right around there.
Yeah. So this was all pre-environmental concern.
No, this is, I've been here, so it's like a pretty big drop,
Mhm.
which is why it goes like this.
That's
And
why
then this
Craig
is-
calling it a pit.
This is, yeah, and it's like, this is where trucks come in and stuff like that. I think it's an active site. I just know it as One High Street, but, town doesn't review these things.
Oh, yeah.
No, is that?
I'm surprised
There's
there's
a
no
company-
plume
There's a
off
company
that.
called Constructs,
That's
which
what the plume
operates in that area there.
Oh, yeah, maybe that is it?
Yeah, they do like leaf recycling, gravel, aggregate, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's them actually. One High Street rings a bell because we use them to dispose of leaves from Boosie's.
Oh, there you go. It's been there for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, the
There
70s.
used to be a different company, and then Hampton Sand and Gravel was, there used to be Hampton Sand and Gravel Construct, which has sites like this in several places in Suffolk County, bought them out. So that kind of sounds familiar,
Mhm.
especially when you mention the drop off and going down.
Yeah. So, go back. So I identified nothing much more on this.
Drainage is okay?
Yeah, the drainage, it'll be, Tom will give us final sign off before any plans are signed. There's no lighting information, this is page 7, provided, but I'd have them provide their cut sheets and locations for the
Okay.
lighting if it's on the
For
building.
dark skies, yeah.
Yeah. You were fine with the facades, which is good. I'm just gonna have them note the colors on the plans for signature. Well,
You put in future cross-access?
oh, and then future cross-access, yes, because, the middle one, yes, they all have future cross-access, every single one of these sites. So
And the
that
rear.
Excelsior had it too, and so Delandro was a conditional approval also, so the 3 of them have it. And then your energy conservation, so I have your typical statements. And it didn't make it in here. But your additional language, that I had for the Blessing Fields application, I had your additional language for the,
For solar?
climate action plan.
Climate.
Yeah, so I'll put that in here and
Yeah.
make sure it's in there. It's in, I had put it in the other one that I had distributed.
It's a
so.
flat metal roof?
It is not flat, it is
It's
angled, right? It's got an angle, but yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah.
can take
A little bit
advantage of the
one.
south-facing roof, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
So there's no action on this? I just wanted to review it so you were
Okay.
comfortable doing a decision
Fun
at the next
Febby.
meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay?
Good.
You left me.
Anthony came and went.
Yes, you lost us.
Okay, so number 7 is off the agenda. Sessa, Eugene Sessa. 8, Corwith Red Barn, Prem.
Okay.
What happens if Hampton 6?
Anthony.
Okay.
Can you pass the energy? Can you distribute the energy down this way?
We need distributed energy.
Energy overlay. Expanding the overlay.
We have to enjoy ourselves.
great.
Okay, it's all yours.
Thank you. Corwith Red Barn LLC, it's a subdivision at 140.
And make sure you
Oh, yeah.
speak into the mic. Just pull it over if you need to.
A subdivision at 140 Upper Seven Ponds Road in Watermill. A few of the board members may recall this, it was put in front of the board in 2012 for pre-application for a subdivision.
Can you
Uh,
pull up the map for us?
The site map?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the 80%
It
conservation
is, that's
opportunity
right.
subdivision.
Let's see.
So we don't have a report here. This is
This is for
just completeness.
completeness and setting a hearing.
Okay.
I'll bring up the PRD bill. Oh. That's the plan. The pre-application was submitted in 2012, just for a little bit of history, and the board adopted the report on August 8th of 2013. It's before you again today because of holdups with the health department, and it's been 12 years, so they're reapplying since the
Okay.
last application. The applicant submitted a yield plan as it's required, but the cluster plan or the conservation map is what's preferred, especially since the town has purchased and transferred the agricultural development rights for the 80% conservation. And at that time, the conservation opportunity map that was submitted was the one that was preferred by the board as well, and the one that's before you today is in keeping with that plan. So we're considering completeness and would like to set the public hearing for the pre-application of the 5-lot subdivision with the 80% conservation. The lot measures 20.5 acres, 16.1 of that, 16.4 of that is the dedicated 80% conservation. Unless you have some questions for me, the applicant is up for.
So it's complete.
It is complete, the pre-application is complete. We've gone through it.
And you want to set a public hearing for what
For
date?
February 22nd.
What else do we have on that, Kristen?
It's open, that's it.
It's open, okay. Well, any questions on this? So we're going to deem it complete and schedule a public hearing for February 22nd. Motion by Gloria.
Second?
Second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
And because this is past the 10 years, it has to go through everything all over again, is that?
Yeah.
I believe I don't know if it's the 10-year marker.
It's up to you.
We had brought this to Jackie's attention
Mhm.
maybe a month ago, and she thought it would be appropriate to go
Yeah.
through the process again.
I think so.
But if the board is inclined, they could waive everything.
But there are some questions about the location of the housing. You know, there are 2 houses on the lower portion of the property,
Yeah,
and 3 north.
The
And the
divided lots.
question was, did you move one, should we move one to the north? So I think,
You can't move them outside the easement anymore, though. The easement is set, the 80% is set.
we had this discussion at the meeting.
Yeah, the 80% is set. Could you put all of them to the north and make them smaller lots? You could,
Mhm.
but the easement's set. So up to the board. We thought it probably be warranted to go through the process
Yeah,
again.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah,
It's
I
been a
was just-
long time.
yeah.
It's a decade.
For the public, new neighbors, those kinds
Yeah.
of things. Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
no, I just,
Sure, thank you.
thank you.
so we took a vote, right?
Uh,
Yes, we did, okay. So,
Thank you, Kristen.
thank you, Kristen. Glad you're there. CVA Community Solar, which we had on our work session. This is now to set a pre-submission conference.
I think it's dated for February 22nd in the packet, however,
Where,
took-
did you distribute a packet?
Oh, you have to print them out for them.
oh, I didn't print out the resolution. Is that not it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard resolution, so.
Okay. Yeah, the resolution asks for the 22nd, February 22nd. However, to accommodate the applicant, we'd like to have it on March 14th.
Fine. And it's complete, ready
Yeah,
for
there
public
really-
hearing?
yeah, it's complete, yeah. There's
Okay.
really not much
All
to
right.
check.
Okay, so motion to set it, deem it complete and
Motion.
public hearing for March 14?
A motion.
Motion by George, second by Gloria, and all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. March 14th. Good. Okay, now, is Anthony back? Where did he
to go last.
Okay, asked to go last, okay. So Claire, you've got the Atlantic Club staff housing.
If you could give him that's the last one we have, and then
Public hearing
Yeah.
For when?
March 14th.
Oh, on the
The applicant's request. Community solar.
Thank you.
So we are
This
up
one-
to Secra.
This is 2:20. When did they set this meeting?
That was set for
No, the
2/22.
The 14th.
Thank you.
Is that March 14th?
Yeah, that's CBE, yeah. The red part
But the board might be familiar with this topic.
I think we've memorized it.
A little bit. Wayne was around.
He's still here. He's in the hall.
Is he?
Yeah.
Do you mind stepping out for Wayne for, do you know what he looks like? So basically the documents prepared are the part 2 and a elaborated narrative on every standard.
What are we doing? We're going through the EAF?
Yep, the EAF Part 2. And site plan.
So
Is
shall
it
we-
easier to go through the narrative? Because it does kind of summarize. That's the Word document at the end. Does that make sense?
Well, let's try it.
Okay. So these are the items I have identified as basically a small
Small to
impact.
moderate.
Yes, or positive impact, you know, something that
Mhm.
would have a little explanation that there's mitigation or something to that effect. So impact on land is the depth to groundwater is greater than 3 feet. It's actually about 14 feet. That's noted on the site plan. Project is sited in a flat area. Construction project is anticipated to be less than 1 year. Runoff from the proposed project is to be retained on site. The drainage structures have been designed to accommodate all runoff to reduce the impact to land. Plans shall be redesigned for 3-inch rainfall capacity. So that has been done. They just submitted them yesterday, so.
Do you also want to say that runoff so not to impact the land or Shorts Pond?
Oh, yeah, good point. That's probably the surface water, right?
Looks it,
I say
yeah.
in, I think, the second item.
But it doesn't hurt to, yeah, I
To
see. It doesn't
restate-
hurt to
restate
restate
it.
it.
Yeah, no problem. If that's good, we'll go on to surface waters.
Mhm.
Proposed action involves construction adjoining a freshwater wetlands known as Short Pond as within the jurisdiction of 200 feet pursuant to the town of Southampton 325. The proposed action meets the minimum structural setback 125 as the setback of the building will be 220. The proposed action is outside the jurisdiction of the DEC designated freshwater wetlands known as Short Pond as it occurs outside the jurisdiction setback of 100 feet. The applicant provided the Short Pond surface and groundwater evaluation report prepared by TPW Grosser dated December 1st, 2021, which concludes the proposed project would capture and recharge all stormwater water off within the project area. It would not discharge it directly to Shorts Pond. The report states the proposed action includes the installation of a stormwater management system that will contain and recharge stormwater from the 2-inch rainfall event in the project. Yes, the
3
plan
inch.
shall be updated for the 3-inch rainfall. That's how I include that, so, yeah.
Mhm.
At the time, it was 2 inches in
Yes.
2021, but it's
But
been
we-
revised, yeah.
It's been raining a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So the next bullet, the report states the proposed permeable gravel will reduce the area of impervious surface within the project area while also providing for effective infiltration for stormwater. Report also states the proposed erosion and sediment control will include at minimum stockpile protection, stabilizing exposed areas, inlet sediment control devices for storm structure protection, silt fencing, and a stabilized construction entrance to prevent off-site sediment tracking from construction vehicles. These erosion and sedimentation controls will minimize the potential impacts associated with the site development and construction activities to ensure proper function and will minimize sediment loading onto short ponds. The report further states the proposed project will not utilize fertilizers as part of the proposed action. Proposed action will involve the establishment of a 100-foot non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. And so that's the conclusion for surface waters.
Good.
Impact on groundwater. Proposed action will require the wastewater discharge to groundwater after treatment in the proposed IAOWTS technology. The system will be installed under the standards adopted by the Health Department, Article 19, which requires monitoring the system every 12 months by a private maintenance provider. Shorts Pond surface and groundwater evaluation report states the proposed IA system technology will reduce the effluent nitrogen concentration on site in accordance with Article 6 and Article 19 standards of the SCSC. The report further elaborates the installation of a stormwater management system and use of permeable gravel, which will provide for effective infiltration for stormwater runoff, for stormwater into ground per the town code, which is a 2-inch rainfall standard.
3 inch.
3 inch.
You have 3 inch.
You have
3 inch. Yes, right. I summarized the report and then put the 3 inch. There will be no bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products. Electric and gas lines will be extended from the street. The proposed action will not involve the use of pesticides or fertilizer. The proposed action includes a geothermal heating system which will be closed looped to minimize impacts on groundwater. Okay? Impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action occurs in approximately the area of soils classified as Group 1 of the New York State Land Classification System, Haven Loam. A portion of the development also occurs in Plymouth, which is not classified as prime agricultural soils. This area of the subject property has not been farmed since the mid-'80s, according to the aerial photographs. The entire subject property has been operated as a golf club since the mid-'90s. Impact on aesthetic resources. The 6,500 square feet employee housing structure was designed to appear like a single-family residence with natural materials and similar roof lines. Proposed action incorporates landscape screening of the structure, parking only, which is in keeping with residences in the area. Proposed action is adjacent to a view shed, which is identified to be important by the town of Southampton. Scuttle Hole Road was included as one of the scenic roads in map 12E in the eastern portion of the town in the 1999 comprehensive plan update. Page 120. Proposed action includes a scenic view shed easement, which includes the mowing of existing grasslands to retain the view. A meadow maintenance plan shall be prepared and submitted for approval by M. Shea of the Environmental Division and the Planning Board. The proposed action includes the removal of an existing Russian olive, which will enhance the view shed across Shorts Pond. I think it's Shorts Pond, right?
I think it's with an S.
Yeah. I'll move on to historic and archaeological. So the proposed action will occur within an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office Archaeological Site Inventory. The applicant provided a Phase 1A prepared by Alfred Camissa, which concluded after 12 shovel tests, no further architectural work was recommended.
So they did 1A and B.
They, yes, 1A and B, yes, correct.
So
Yes, I'm sorry, I will put B in
1A
there.
and B. Yeah.
Yep. Impact on open space. The proposed action is noted above, which will retain and enhance the existing view shed with the establishment of a scenic easement, which will include the yearly mowing of the existing grassland to retain the view to be outlined in a meadow maintenance plan. Proposed action includes the extension of existing trail on the site from the north to the pond, to the south to Scuttle Hole Road. The exact location of the trail will be determined through the site plan process and with consideration of the Southampton Town's Advisory Board comments and recommendations. The trail will be an enhancement and continuation of existing open space opportunities. Impact on critical environmental area. So the proposed action in the Aquifer Protection Overlay Districts, the purpose of the APOD is to ensure maximum water recharge and to minimize the potential for fertilized vegetation. Natural vegetation located on a tract or lot shall be preserved to the maximum extent possible. The proposed action is located in an area of the lot which is substantially cleared. Existing vegetation has been retained except for the removal of one native tree, non-native trees. Proposed action will not result in the reduction of the quantity or quality of the resource or the characteristic for which the basis of the designation for the CEA. Proposed action will not involve the use of pesticides or fertilizers. A covenant will be required. So on to impact and energy. The planning board finds no impact or small impact as the proposed action will utilize a closed-looped geothermal system. The proposed action includes solar panels on the roof, and the above are positive impacts on energy. Okay. So consistent with community plans. Proposed action is consistent with the adopted land use plans and the zoning regulations. The proposed action of living quarters for golf club employees accessory to an existing golf club is permitted use through special exception regulations in the town code. Proposed action is consistent with adopted state regulations. The proposed action involves construction of adjoining freshwater wetlands known as Shorts Pond, as it is within the jurisdiction of 200 feet pursuant to the town code. Proposed action meets the minimum structural setbacks of 125, as the setback of the building is actually 220 and not 172.
220?
Yeah. Proposed action is outside the jurisdiction of the DEC designated freshwater wetlands. Proposed action is adjacent to a view shed, which is identified as important. The town of Southampton. Scuttle Hole Road was included. I had stated that before, so I'm just restating that. Proposed action includes a scenic view shed easement, which includes the mowing of the existing grassland and retain the view per a meadow management plan. And the consistency with community character. I'm restating some of the things I said before, but the 6,500 square foot structure is designed to appear like a single-family residence with natural materials and similar roof lines. The proposed action is consistent with a predominant architectural scale and character. Proposed action incorporates landscape screening of the structure parking only, which is in keeping with residences in the area. Proposed action is consistent with the character of the existing natural landscape.
That's a very complete report,
Yeah.
Claire.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Do you think that we should, when we say 6,500 square foot building for living quarters, say the number of bedrooms?
Oh, we could do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's 6, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Let's see, I might say it, I don't have it right in front of me. I'm not quite sure if Wayne has that
Wayne
information.
is here.
I don't know the number of bedrooms, but there is.
It's in somewhere.
I can include it,
You
I'll just
can
look it up.
just include it, yeah.
Yeah,
16 employees.
okay.
16 employees and bedrooms.
Is there anywhere to say that the elimination of people having to drive to work?
Energy.
I didn't do transportation, but I think you're saying it's a positive.
Yes.
Yeah, positive.
Right, so I can
I think
say that.
that's good, yeah.
Yeah, so let me check transportation. In that case, I will say a statement that it's taking people off the road. from-
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the
Expected to.
climate action plan, it talks about the environmental badness of all the cars.
The pollution.
Yeah,
Okay.
not very well stated, but,
But we should refer to the climate action plan
Yes,
here
yeah.
as our finding.
Okay.
I mean, that's.
With
that's-
energy and transportation?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I think now that we have the plan adopted, we should really be looking at those potential fixes.
Right, and refer to
And
it
refer
as the
to it.
document,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would add bike paths as well.
Yeah, bike,
Wherever possible.
yeah. Wayne, do you have any comments?
Just a couple. So good afternoon, Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinson Bruin for the applicant Atlantic. Thank you for your review. It is quite extensive, and thank you to Claire for reviewing this. We did provide some comments, and she picked up on some of the changes. Originally, you picked up on the setback 172 versus 220. I was going to make a comment that there should be a comment about the traffic reduction. But more importantly, we did submit an expanded environmental assessment form, which all of this, if you had the opportunity, that Claire has used this as the basis for coming to the findings that you've made. I think it's important to reference that and what you did review and use as the source of that information.
So we can include that. Claire.
I can, yeah, because I reviewed it and gave
Yeah.
you this summary
So
for it.
as a-
Sure.
Yeah, as a.
So
I'll
for
say at the
example, in
beginning-
there, we pick up on the comment about traffic, the fact
Yeah.
that these are 16 existing employees that come to the site now, which will be housed on the property,
So we'll refer to that. What's the formal title of that?
It's the expanded EAF, it's
Expanded.
right, this document right here,
Yeah.
this beautiful little light reading I did.
Over Christmas?
Yes, so I'll refer to this, actually just at the beginning of the narrative,
Yeah.
and then so it'll be easy to
Exactly.
reference. Okay, great.
The other comments, a couple comments, Claire, and you can just add, so under impact on surface water, you mentioned a non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. We just want to know that the board had asked for, and we had offered on this project for the buffer to encircle the entire pond. when
Right,
we were dealing
right.
with the other issue, so that's just a point there. The other thing is that we do have health department approval for this project. So that, I think, is important under impact on groundwater, for you to indicate that not only are our system designed to minimize impact, but we also received the health department's approval for this project. I think you picked up on everything else. We did note, and the board recognized when we had our hearing, that the two adjoining lots were purchased by the town and now open space, but the two adjoining lots to the north, were actually sold to a builder who built houses that are 2 to 3 times the size of this project. So that sort of sets the tone for the neighborhood. We're not only consistent, but probably smaller in size than the average single-family dwelling in the neighborhood, so.
And you're keeping the vista as Shorts Pond.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
the other
as
houses
everything
along-
that you asked for
Yeah,
is.
and the other
Yeah.
houses along that stretch will have giant, big
Green
green
giants.
giants.
Yeah.
Okay, any comments from the planning board?
So there's 2 actions. One would be to adopt the negative declaration with your changes. And the second action would be to schedule the public hearing. We do have everything required for the site plan to proceed as special exception.
Okay,
I think we have room on the 22nd, but there's only one other
Yeah.
item on, so.
Okay, so
we
let's,
can-
adopt
That's good.
the,
22nd of February,
let's adopt the report first.
the negative declaration.
Negative deck,
Mhm.
neg deck. Motion by
Motion.
Gloria, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. And then we're setting a public hearing for Feb. 22nd. Motion by George, second
Second.
by Tom, all in favor.
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I just have those plans to be signed when Gloria has them.
Gloria will sign
I will
those.
acknowledge that I will sign them.
Okay.
And just the top page of each
Top
one.
page.
Okay.
So, new singular, number 15 will be signed. Anthony, welcome. We thought you flew the coop.
Nope.
Nope, okay, so, road number 2, 325 Rose Hill Road, Watermill.
And if everyone remembers the subdivision, this was a two-lot
Yes.
subdivision,
Yeah.
Watermill, the old convent site.
Yeah, the nuns.
The old convent, right.
So, as part of the subdivision approval, you might recall there was some substantial clearing that occurred
Yes.
landwards of the wetlands. The applicant, actually, as part of the original application, did submit a planting plan. We sort of sent it away. They came back with a revised plan, which went to Marty's office. It's not a wetlands restoration, it's an upland. And they reviewed it at their last meeting and found that it was acceptable. Has a nice mixture of native bushes and plants and some native grasses and trees. We sort of, when we directed them, said, we want a mix of substantial plantings and some natural regrowth as well. Because that's what you want, is you want some of that natural.
So that's along the,
So that's a long, that pool is going, obviously. So, you can see a long
yeah,
75 feet from the wetlands, actually, so it's a pretty nice buffer job. And-
Is the pool stay?
No,
no, it's going.
yeah, that's going. They're gonna redevelop it.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll probably have pools on the property,
Yeah.
so I'm just recommending approval of this revegetation plan.
Okay.
And then just that they would have to be inspected before any COs get issued.
And there was a flag strip or something, wasn't
On
there,
this side, yeah, I
to?
think.
There is a flag strip, that's still there, and there's, plantings going on even within there.
Okay.
Yep, they didn't eliminate that area from the plantings.
Did they find peace with the neighbor who was?
Yes, because we put it in our approval, we maintaining the hedgerow along the southern property boundary. So there's trees that are staying there, and they show, as part of the planting plan, a buffer so that the neighbors don't have to look in there. So, we did the best we could.
It's nice when it all works out.
Yeah, works out as good as possible. With a inspection prior to a CO, I recommend approval.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion to approve the re-veg plan?
Motion?
Motion by Gloria and second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Anthony, your number 4 is an extension?
It is an extension. We
Hampton?
actually, and the board, you will get the report, if I didn't send it this morning, which I thought I did, but I might have forgot
I
the
don't
report
think
and
so.
the resolution, because I was anticipating doing it today.
Yeah?
But the applicant couldn't be here, so.
Oh.
But just to remind the board on this Hampton 6, and Claire and I actually spoke to the engineer. Besides that connection that we're getting with the adjacent, and then you have a good ground in the rear that we're going to maintain that access. There's 2 curb cuts on the highway there. So the westernmost one is going to be entrance only. The one to the east is going to be exit only with no left turns. So we're trying to tighten this up as much as we can. So the applicant's also in the process of revising plan.
And if the traffic circle ever comes to bear, it would still work?
Well, that's for the other site, for the that's for
This
the
is by
diner site.
Scotto's.
The diner
That's a
side.
diner.
Right.
Yeah, this-
Yeah,
There's a
so
lot of
it's-
stuff going on in Hampton Bays.
That's a big improvement to the traffic pattern there, though.
Yeah, for sure,
Lots safer.
for sure. So we'll do an extension until February 8th for Hampton 6 Realty Corp.
Motion. Motion by George, second by
Second?
Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Eugene Sessa's off the agenda, everybody.
Number 7 is off,
Yeah,
we
number
said
7
that,
is off.
right? And then you've got number 10, Brown Development Corp.
Yep, let me just.
Extension.
Is that an extension also, Anthony?
Yes, I just want to get the, I just want to
May
get the date.
24th is what I wrote down, and I'm questioning my.
Is that what you wrote down? That was in the resolution then, because I had a resolution in there.
Okay.
So the resolution then is for the extension until May 24th, 2024.
Okay. Motion for the extension?
Motion?
Motion by Gloria, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Number 11, Burke,
Yeah, so.
site plan.
Yeah, it's site plan, subdivision, affordable housing, it's a little mix. The board might remember, we looked at this as a pre-submission, a pre-application for a density incentive subdivision, then taking that yield with
You
the
have it?
density incentive. Yeah, well, I'm gonna come up there with the map.
Okay.
This has an existing single-family residence on this property.
Big old house.
Big old house. The plan was to keep that house, develop a density based on a yield plan, and then do a density incentive, of which a percentage then would be set aside as affordable housing. There's been a change to the project. The project's been somewhat scaled down, actually. And they're still doing, it's HO zone, by the way, Hamlet office. They are still maintaining that single-family residence that would be maintained as a single family. And they're still doing 2 multifamily structures that will have 4 units in each of them, 8 total, plus a single-family residence. And they're all proposed to be affordable, actually. So
Even
the
the big
change.
house? Even the big house?
That I don't know, about the house. Is that, will that be affordable?
Did we find that Hamlet couldn't have the extra density?
No, I don't think that was the issue,
Okay.
actually. The issue is the fact that the health department doesn't recognize density incentive. So
Okay.
they either require flow and all sorts of stuff, and sometimes it's not achievable. But you'll see, just give you, where am I here? Oh, there's Noyak Road. So you have the existing residence in the back, and what they're proposing ultimately then is 2 multifamily buildings with 4 units in there each. It's not vastly different than what we looked at
They were
before.
proposing another building in the back.
What's happening with the
Yeah.
building in the back of the house?
It's going to stay as a resident, first of all, for the record, Timothy S. McCauley of Council de Burke and Sullivan, 41 Meeting House Lane, Southampton. It's going to stay as a residence. The original proposal that you looked at, and for which you had issued a pre-application report, I think it was July of '21, they were going to have 5 units in that old house, and then there were going to be a total, then similar houses or buildings that we're proposing now. So you would have 13 units, 2 of which will be affordable. Now, we're going to keep the residents in the back, have the 2 buildings with the 4 apartments in each one, all affordable.
Including the big house?
No, the house is going to be
Okay.
separate.
I
okay?
didn't,
The-
that
So
didn't
you're
make
four-
sense.
carving that out?
The 8 apartments will be affordable.
No, that'll probably stay on the property, actually.
What's
It's
that?
not, they're not subdividing that house piece off. or
No, that
anything.
stays the same. We're trying to save costs here so we can do this affordable. Where we went to the health department, Dave Wilcox spent about a year trying to find us credits for this, for the density, the health department. Unfortunately, we went to the board of review and they denied us because one of the credits, or some of the credits, I should say, were not in the 0 to 2 flow to the Noyak Bay. So we're out trying to get around that and work around that now. That's the only stumbling block. I'm at the ZBA. I'm back on February 15th, but I basically presented the whole case. We need some, there's something in the code that says on an HC zone, you can only have a maximum of 4 apartments. Even though we have 2.5 acres here, we're not enough, we can't get an affordable overlay because we're not big enough, but we're caught up in this glitch that's in the code.
It's interesting, the HO, even demonstrating, because in the HO and the HC zoning districts, when you're dealing with dwelling units, the minimum is 1 per 10,000 square feet. So it's not even a question of yield on here. The yield was demonstrated as part of the first application. It's just the code says, because you have a lot of leeway then, once you have a yield, to cluster, to do that, but the code says in the HO or HC or both, you can't have more than one building with 4, and so it sort of flies in the face of having an apartment development. So they're before the zoning board for the second building for that.
Yeah, instead of going for a subdivision and
Yeah.
going through all of that and all the expense that entails, we're at the zoning board asking, I think they're gonna grant it.
Yeah, so the zoning board now has this application to deal with that. They're in the secret process because they had to, so they had them coordinate. And so I just wanted, the purpose of this was for the planning board to acknowledge that you want to be lead agency, so we could let the ZBA know. And then I'm going to come back here with all the secret documents to go through all that stuff with you.
May I ask, is the owner of this property will be one person that will own the big house and the 8 apartments and be a landlord?
Is it one person?
Yes, one entity,
One entity will own the whole thing?
yes.
Mhm. There'll be rentals.
So obviously, but the town, there'll be covenants, that go with it, making them affordable, and then subject to, of course, the town's affordable housing provisions.
And is this gonna have driveway access, or is it access
We'll
out via
deal
the next
with that
door
as a
road?
review. There's been question about Noyak Road and Berkshire Drive. So
Well, we're gonna,
That's my
right now, the plan is to use the existing driveway, but widen it out and clean it up.
And that's
This
what was
was,
Noyak.
the application was referred
Yeah,
at some point to, I guess the ZBA must have done that, referred it to the county, and they punted. They
Well,
said
Noyak-
that they're not, it's not in their jurisdiction.
Noyak Road
It's
is.
a county road, but I think.
No,
It's a town road.
No.
Yeah,
the
it's a town road now.
Mhm. It may have been the county when you started this, because I know, Tom, you'll be able
The
to.
town took it over in 2009.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Encyclopedia.
Yeah, and so just be aware, we'll get into that discussion when we're going through the secret stuff, because I know someone from the public did come out in support of the project, by the way. And just happened to note that there was some discussion about possibly using Berkshire, or at least potentially even as an alternative.
I think
so.
we're cut off from that.
Oh,
That's
it
why
could be.
was designed that way.
Gotcha, okay, that might be, I'll have to look at my pre-submission and see.
I don't
So
wanna-
are-
Anthony, you mentioned a glitch in the code.
I don't know, I don't know, I probably shouldn't have said that, but the code says in the HO, HC zoning district,
Right.
you can't have more than,
Yeah.
one building with 4 apartments in it.
I
Is this an
usually-
anomaly, or do you think we'll encounter this again?
Well, can I answer that maybe?
Sure.
Okay, I use the term glitch. And what it is you have HC requires 10,000 square feet, that's all. So you can understand why they're saying no more than 4 units on that 10,000 acres. 10,000 square feet, rather. We have 2.5 acres here. So what I'm saying, it doesn't take into consideration the size of your one lot.
Right,
That's all I was saying.
right.
I understand the intention of it, to limit what you can do on a small lot, but it doesn't, I think it should have had wording in there about the size of the lot.
I think what
That's
this
my
brings up
opinion.
is that as we're trying to fit affordable housing
Yes.
within our town, we're gonna have to think about whether we actually rewrite some of the code, or ZBA has to be providing various.
In this case, it's a little bit of an easier pull on everybody's part,
To do
because I
so.
got a yield
Yeah.
that shows everything.
This,
That's-
I mean,
Right,
this
Yeah.
is sort of an easy, from my perspective, an easy yes from ZBA. But we may have other issues
Sure,
moving
sure.
forward. That's all I was saying.
Which is exactly why I was asking,
Yeah.
yeah.
So our action is simply to
To-
take lead.
Yeah, we're responding to the
coordinate
lead agency
We'll take-
coordination that you want to take lead agency.
Yes.
And then that stops the ZBA until.
They won't talk to them until we're done.
So I'll take a motion on that, George, and second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Okay?
Thank you, Tim.
You said I'm not talking to the ZBA until you're done? I can talk to them, I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
can't get a
they
decision.
can't make any decisions.
That's what
I
I
didn't
meant.
think that way.
You can talk.
You could talk to the ZBA. I know you are.
Okay.
Are we done?
I think we are
Yeah.
done. So, nothing more, no more walk-ons, nothing? Okay, so a motion to adjourn
Motion?
by Gloria, second by Craig, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. We reconvene at 6 PM.
You have a little time today.